that represents the right choice, represents the reform agenda. And on Monday, August the 14th, it will be a different kind of lighting up. We'll be lighting up with a PNM victory. This is our time in Chaguanas. This is our time to control the borough of Chaguanas. The people are saying that they are fed up, so they will show up at the polls on Monday to ensure that the borough of Chaguanas, for the first time, will be in the hands of a caring PNM council.
Great is the PNM, it shall prevail. Sleeping time. Sleeping time. Sleeping time.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our candidates on the stage. Your PNM Chaguanas Borough Corporation. Thank you very much, candidates. Can you claim your seats as you will be doing on August 14th? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There's an energy, there's an enthusiasm, there's a love, there's a smell of victory in Chaguanas for the Red Army. There is a PNM Balize type of smell in Chaguanas. The place is being painted red. Not because people just like what we're doing and how we're looking, because they recognize that the only sane and the only political party that is bringing some kind of thing to the platform of local government reform is the People's National Movement. So coming to speak to us at this point was supposed to be one of our candidates, the candidate for Montrose, Andal Paramsuk. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not here. Put your hands together for him. And our fourth candidate who is going to be speaking tonight, she has been serving for the last 3 years in the borough as your alderman. She is a beautiful, wonderful, hard-working attorney at law. She is a person with an agenda of love, goodwill, and charitable works in this borough. Ladies and gentlemen, your next local government representative for Edinburgh 500 and Edinburgh Londonville. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Stacey Murphy.
Lofty and deep, we go follow Rowley. Keep Rowley, bully with the victory. PNM warriors with your bodies.
We coming. Good evening, Kearney I fix it. Just like how we go fix it for them on the 14th of August, 2023. Edinburgh, Londonville South. Are you ready for August 14th, 2023? We ready it up. Let me hear you. We ready it up. Permit me to acknowledge my God, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. The Honorable Ministers, Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez. Minister, Senator Richie Sukai. The Worksman. Senator Donna Cox. Minister in the Ministry of Social Development and Family Service. The Minister who cares. The most efficient General Campaign Managers. Mr. Lennox Ratan Singh. Mr. Wayne Ennis. All 7 candidates vying for a seat in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation here with me. Mr. Love, Lucas. Mr. Dance, Mahindra Rampasad. The official Muslim, Lisa Holder. Andy Lewis, the man for the youths. The Vika Suku, the planter. Andel Param Suk, the man with the most posters in the whole borough. Kevin Phillip, my good friend. And to all the residents who I have met and who have endorsed me as your next councillor for Edinburgh, Londonville South. I am Stacey Murphy, previous alderman and your next councillor. I've been on the ground, always doing something with the people, for the people. I lie? Tell me if I lie. From my experience, the previous councillors, listen to me carefully, the previous councillors in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation have publicly complained about lack of funding to get the projects done in their districts. Am I lying? Inefficient cleaning of drains. Inefficient drainage, my friend out there, the garbage. Bumpy roads. Improper street lights. Lack of signage. The need for speed humps. Am I lying, people? There is clearly a lack of funding to do the work. You, the residents of Edinburgh, Londonville South, you have asked for that to be done in this community. My government, and I would say it loud and clear for people to feel who in government. My government, my P&M government, my People's National Movement government, under the astute leadership of none other, the Honorable Dr. The Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. He has mapped out a plan by way of introduction of the local government reform. With the local government reform, the borough will have multiple streams of funding. They can access funding internally by way of residential collection of income. You hear me? More money. Say it with me. More money. The additional funding will be used to pave the same roads, patch the same streets that you drive through. All you feel I ain't drive through Fleming Street. I drive through the pressure. The Bocas are going to Tobago, but it's not on vacation on 15th Street. Talk to me. Pressure. Penco Street. Pressure. Street. More pressure. Pothole to bus pipe. First time I hear that one. It's normally water, brother. More roads will be patched. Roads will be paved. Speed humps installed with what? local government. Say to me, those empty lots, the Shogunas Borough Corporation will have the jurisdiction to enter with the permission of the owner. If the owner not there, they can have a warrant to get there to do what? To cut the grass, to remove the rubble, to help you. You who made requests to the borough over 3 years. That could not have been previously facilitated, but we have what now? The local government reform. Oh God, wait, now I finish my speech yet. Under the local government reform, your councillor's position will now be how? Full time. Say it with me. Full time. This means better representation. Your complaints of not seeing your councillors enough should be gone. That is better representation by your People's National Movement candidate. Get ready for it. We ready it up. We ready it? Only quiet, madam. Only want me to finish talk. What we doing? We ready it up. Reform is the right choice. Do you know? Listen to this one, I know only listening for the couture. Only know what's couture? Right, only listening for it. Do you know that our government released over $7 million to the UNC-led Shogunas Borough Corporation over the last 2 years? $7 million. You know what I could do with that money? You know what you could do with that money? And the roads, it's still not paved. It's still not. It never have oil, son. Correct is right. Mosquito biting you left from head to arm to show for all in the neck, mosquito biting you because they refuse to do what? Spray the place. The drain still clogged up. When rain fall, now I've been walking the length and breadth of Edinburgh. And let me tell you, 15 minutes of rain, I don't need to continue. What happening in Edinburgh 500? You have to move your cars, your trucks. The water level up to your wall, up to your knee. Ladies and gentlemen, the problem with the current local government system is lack of proper management of resources. You all understand that? Listen now, my people Brighton. We went to school. We had degree, PhD. We ain't no pick up side. No, not behind the school, in the school. Real thing, nothing fake. Insufficient funding. Bureaucracy. I only know what is bureaucracy. Because my people, we bright. It takes a long time from requests to address your potholes, your drains, from the councillor to the CEO, to the department, to the ministry, to the public companies. And then to who? To you. So we need to reform that. We need to reform the current local government system. I am saying to you this evening, local government reform will come. Heart. And the PNM, we shall prevail. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We ready now. We ready now. Yes. Hey. We ready now. We ready now. This one is for the PNM family. We ready now. We ready now. Vote for the PNM.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for your next counselor. You heard her yourself, the powerful, the dynamic, the intelligent Stacey Murphy. DJ, play the music for Stacy.
Tell everybody, join the PNM party. I say this is all your chance. We ready now. We ready now. Yes. Hey, we ready now. We ready now. This one is for the PNM family. We ready now. We ready now. Vote for the PNM.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, DJ. I want to recognize in our crowd the chairman of the KAREEM East constituency, Ms. Nicole Francois. Put your hands together for her. Mr. Reba Bowen. Put your hands together for him, a member of our team. Mr. O.C. Ben. Another member of our team. Mr. Riyad Ali, the vice chairman of the KAREEM Central constituency. Mr. Clarence Archibald, another member of the team. And of course, Mr. Providence, the vice chairman of Shoguanas East. Put your hands together for them in the crowd tonight. On the program, we have a cultural interlude, but that will come after the next speaker. The next speaker made his maiden contribution on a PNM platform right here in Shoguanas several weeks ago at Christie Terrace Central Balizé House, a national public meeting. He lit up the place, and then he spoke again in Enterprise, the Pan Theater, Tropical Angel Harps, and again he gave them thunder. He is an engineer by profession. He's a son of the soil. He was a former president of the Chamber of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, a businessman, and now the minister in the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Honorable Richie Sukai.
Was a man. Once upon a time there was a man.
Tonight, my beautiful family.
Full of magic people. Let me tell you a story of their pain and their glory. Oh, yeah. Many rivers flow to this naked eye, bringing fair and pain, but also a brand new style. And of all these rivers that shape this land, two mighty ones move like a sculptor's hand. And today those hands across the land, man, is still landscaping. And there's no doubt we can work it out, there is no escaping.
Good night, my beautiful people of Shoguanas PNM family. Thank you for being here. This Sea of Red is beautiful. That song from David Rother is iconic. David Rother has one of the sweetest voice as a national icon, and he should always remember. But that song especially, where the Ganges meet the Nile, reminds me of Shoguanas. To support you, the people of this area. So allow me first to acknowledge our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, my colleague, my good friend, the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez, Minister of Utilities, the Senator, the Honorable Donna Cox, who just left, Minister of Social Development, distinguished chairmen who have done a fabulous job thus far in chairing these meetings. I can hear in Uncle Lennox's voice that he's a bit strained, but I'm sure after August 14th, he'll be having the eucalyptus tea. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, well-wishers, people of the party executive, the people of Shoguanas East, Shoguanas West, the people of Shoguanas entirely, thank you again for being here tonight. And let me say, on these walks thus far, I've learned so much more about you, the people. So for instance, this afternoon, just before the proceedings start, I actually went to the grounds and I saw a couple of the youth. They were knocking ball and, you know, just talking with them and getting to understand. And then a glimpse, I saw, yeah, we have a beautiful lit ground. But if you look at the pavilions, there's no wood. There's no seating. So it's like, then after, Stacey mentioned 7 million dedicated to the Borough Corporation. And you mean they couldn't find money to put wood for the people? We had to do audit. But, you know, this is my point here. So walking around amongst you, the people, I understood the plight. One of the biggest complaint and the first thing you hear is when you see the candidate, whether or not the person is going up for the first time or the repeat candidate, you hear the same thing. First time I seen you around here, first time I seen you around here. But I'll address that at the end of my my contribution. The other part is the roads. Next, flooding. So roads and traffic, flooding. The other issue I heard, and it was quite interesting, inheritance tax. Well, I'll deal with that also. So let's look at drainage and flooding right now. I can tell you from the Ministry of Works, we have at least 16 desilting projects that are going on right now. And I can tell you for 2023, right, we have already embarked on desilting of the Honda River, the Lima River, the Quinnipiac River, the Endeavour Main Drain, the Borough Drain, and the attributes. We have the Marcin Drain, the Marcin River, right? You have Lurker Drain, you have Felicity, the Outfall Drains. We have been doing a lot of desilting projects. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to see this is not something done as a piecemeal. If you come down the highway as you pass the Weimar Bridge, I am pretty sure in your life you have never seen that area that clean because the drains were widened and they were desilted. Am I right? Tell me, you tell me. And that was done under this administration. So when they say, oh, all of a sudden we finding money to do projects, no. We're coming out of a pandemic. We have priorities, we have emergency projects, and we have the projects that the Borough Corporation is supposed to be dealing with, right? And that is where local government reform is going to come into place. Reform is not about just putting the same old, because when you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over, what do you get? The same results. So are you happy the way it is? Honestly. As the people in this area, you wouldn't like to come and see that the drains are well maintained? You wouldn't like to go to the corporation and request assistance, and they don't want to tell you, well, we had to wait for this one, or it's on the CEO desk, or you had to wait for this approval. How much time we must continue? How long should we continue like this? Stacey said, more money, right? Yeah, it reminds me of a movie, Jerry Maguire. I'm sure you all will remember, at least the older people. Show me the money. Local government is about showing the money to the people and having greater transparency so that you, the people, could see where your money is going to. Another misconception we heard about, and I know the Minister of Finance cleared it up, was inheritance tax. Property tax is something, and I want the population to understand this. While you're hearing about a tax, the tax was always there. You used to pay it, your grandparents, your parents, right? And you forever is going to pay a minuscule tax that is going directly to the corporation. It is going to be rolled out on a phase basis. It is going directly to you, the people, and it is going to be held accountable by your chosen counselors, the people that represent you. So when now you hear they talk about, oh, I now seeing you after so long, after 2 years, only because of election you're coming around. It's not that. Local government election will ensure that these candidates have a 24/7 job. And you know what our job is? To serve you, the people. So tell me, before any pass, I'm a counselor. I get him a salary because you all vote me for me. At the same time, too, I still have to find work, a permanent work, which I'll be doing. So I'm doing my 8-hour job, plus coming and serve the people. How is that going to work? Seriously, how is that going to work? This is a permanent job. Serving the people is a permanent, is a 24/7 job. I tell you this, coming into this, even my ministry, my brother Marvin will tell you the same thing. How many times you hear about broken pipes? And I see Marvin late in the night. Right? And you know what? It is a thankless job, but you know what? We enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it. I know Marvin enjoy doing it. And I'm pretty sure these 8 candidates will enjoy doing it. So think, on August 14th, when you go to the polls, it's decision you're making. You're not making a decision about party, about who is this or who look this. You're making a decision for you, your future, and the people of this country, your children. Because this is the transformation that this country needs. I heard my friend in the crowd, when you said, what? Every time you go by the corporation, they don't have a vehicle. Why? Mismanagement. Mismanagement. I heard you lost your canoe also. I think they found it. but at the same time too, this is what we have to understand. So, ladies and gentlemen, on August 14th, when you go to the polls, I want you to vote for Sherwin, for his innocence, his good heart, and what he is going to offer to you, the people. Oh, wait, vote for Stacy. She has a track record already. Stacy, brilliant, young, talented, who is ready to offer herself to serve you, the people. Lisa. What more I could say about Lisa? A gem of a person. Andy, my brother. When I remember that day I was making my maiden speech on Chrissy Terrace, and they came, said, Senator, I admire you, I want you to support me. And you know what? Something about me just went for that young man. My heart went for him. Because you know why? I know he's genuine. I say that on my pause, I know the boy genuine. You know what? As a business owner and a leader, I can tell you, you interview people. So I have to interview and I have to go through. All of these guys, these men and women went through the process through general counsel. I will tell you, I have my own credential markers. And I will tell you, they've passed every single one of that. So Andy Lewis, up on the tracks. Devika know where she's going. She know what she up against. But you know what? Senator, I needed to do so. Senator, help me so. You know why? She cares. So not only is she has the tenacity to go up in an area that the odds are against her. I respect this young woman for what she's putting. Kevon has his own battles, but that boy has strength and tenacity. He has the endurance to keep on going. And whether or not he wins, you know what? People, I'm pretty sure he could still knock on his door. Because you know why? He's always been there for the people. And I always remember that. Mahindra, he will dance his way into your heart. So I'll tell you that one. No, you don't. Like the Energizer Bunny. But that energy and enthusiasm and tenacity that he has, he will bring to you, the people, to support that area. And last but not least, Andel, he's not here today, but I'm pretty sure he will bring that representation to his area that is most needed. I am telling you, people, we cannot continue the way we are. The resources that we had in the past are depleting. And while we will talk about diversity and whatnot, sustainability is the first thing we should be looking at. And to ensure sustainability and to ensure the future of our country, we need reform. We need the people to understand this. And I want you, on August 14th, remember these 8 candidates and give them your support. As well as always remember, we are PNM and proud. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Once upon a time there was a magic island full of magic people. Let me tell you a story.
Your son of the soil, your very own Senator, the Honorable Richie Sukai. Put your hands together for him. Now you see the kind of stuck. You see why the other side getting upset. Because we have people who are attracted by the PNM and they are coming in the numbers and their droves. Coming to perform a cultural interlude is Emmanuel Trotman. Put your hands together for him.
Yeah! We'd like to say good night to each and everyone. Good night, everyone. I want to dedicate this song to my candidate, Stacey Murphy, right? Hey, pump it up. Finding a good woman take a long, long time. Cause you are the only woman who broke the mind. All other woman people and run away. You are the only woman who came to stay. Oh baby, I finally found a wife. Since you came into my life, precious woman, you're a champion. I don't know other woman but you. It's not how you look, what the things you do. I don't know other woman at all, at all. I dreamt of a good woman, never seemed so small. I try UNC, I try PDP, no contest. Cause you are the best among the best. And because you're honest, faithful and true. I don't know other woman but you. Hey, hey. Let me hear you say. Hey, hey, hey. Listen. Woo! Put your hands in the air. Yeah, man. All kind of dedication and love I try. But all what I do, they can never satisfy. I give them diamond rubies and golden rings. Yeah, the end result with the same thing. Oh baby, you are the one for me. You want to love and care for me. Pressure, I told you to come, but all you people. I don't know other woman but you. What we say? It's not how you look, what the things you do. I don't know other woman at all, at all. I dreamt of a good woman, never seemed so small. I try Sanja, I try Lisa, no contest. Why? Stacey, and because you're honest, faithful and true. I don't know other woman but you. Tell me, say, Stacey, thing. Next shot. Next shot. We know that shot. Take it out, Judy. Take it out. What we say? On August the 14th, what we gonna do? We're gonna put my X by the body there. Put the X by the body there. Put it. Woo! Hey. We bring it to movie, go shopping steady. What we say? Oh yeah! Dig it. Come go jump. The vibe is just when we jam it, beat the steel band. Gonna be join the line, got your butter and food. We go party in the engine room. In the engine room, we go jam it steady. In the engine room, we go get on what's it. In the meantime, why don't you join the line, got your butter and food. Come now, we party in the engine room. Ooh, yeah. Well, how much we will survive if we don't create a vibe? This is a big part of the life, so to come up to that side. It's this party atmosphere. What we say? Hey! So we will jive it. Can't, so we cannot jive. No oxygen, so we can't live to drive. So we must come together and fire from away. No more fight, don't think it was unify. They have to keep the one, they go keep you tight. They go come on with them and sing the song, and go hear the video when the man made the come jump. The baby pieces and many jamming babies. Come on, we join in the night, got your bottle and spoon. Only we party in the engine room. In the engine room, we go jam and steady. In the engine room, we go get on what's it. In the meantime, want to do join the line, grab your bottle and spoon. So come now with party in the engine room. So what we say? On August 14th, we raising them flags high. We put in that balize. We put in that X by the balize, right? Don't change your mind. Don't get disrailed. Don't get distracted. Why? Can't start so we cannot find the oxygen so we can. So we must come together and try to find a way. No more fight down thing. We want to fight down thing. Yeah. Stacey Murphy. We never the air when you want to think come go jump. Hey. That's why it is just when we jump in this. So let me join the line, got your butter and food. So come let me party in the engine room. In the engine room we go. Once more. Here's how we winding after that day. Whoa, we go get on. I say, what we say? Party in the engine room. We go jam up in the engine room. My name is Ivan Machotman, a resident of 500. Don't get drive. So I know what we're talking about. Let's go and represent Stacey Murphy on that day, August the 14th. Great is the PNM. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that is the kind of energy I'm talking about in the PNM. Put your hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Trotman. Just a little house announcement. PBW 4691. You need to remove your car immediately. You're blocking someone. Now, there's another cultural item that will be played after the feature speaker tonight. And you all need to stay back to hear it. We're blazing up the place tonight. All right? Our feature speaker tonight, an attorney at law. He acted as the Minister of National Security, a member of the National Security Council, the Member of Parliament for Lopino Bonaire West. My friend, my brother, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best ministers of public utilities. Put your hands together for the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez.
don't want no bad vibes in the land. Because I, whether me ready up for the task. Because I, whether I'm ready to go, whether I'm ready to win, whether I'm ready to vote, ready to make we name, all ready to fight hard and take God from up top to your yard. We don't think we style. We ready to run, we don't know the fire, we don't know the energy, a positive energy, and they cannot damage it. This side of fire, this side of energy, a positive energy, and they cannot damage it. Show me like everything.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, my brother and my good friend, Mr. Lennox Rattensingh, your competent and effective coordinator. And let me also recognize his deputy coordinator, Mr. Wayne Innes, a good friend of the constituency of Lopino, Borneo West. Ladies and gentlemen, let me recognize my parliamentary colleague, Mr. Richie Sukai, the Minister in the Ministry of Works and Transport, as well as all your 8 winning candidates for the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. First, I am very privileged to be welcomed and to be invited to speak on your esteemed platform in support of your 8 winning candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important election that we cannot take for granted. We cannot, at this point in time, say, and we know that we are going to win this election, but elections are won on Elections Day, ladies and gentlemen. The polls open at 6 a.m. on August the 14th, and it ends at 6 p.m. on August the 14th. And during that period of time, it is your responsibility as PNM warriors, as PNM soldiers, as sons and daughters of Trinidad and Tobago, wishing well for this country, to go out and invite your neighbors, invite your friends, even invite your enemies, and let them know that the future of Trinidad and Tobago depends on you making the right choice. The future of Trinidad and Tobago depends on you making the right choice. Ladies and gentlemen, the PNM is campaigning in this local government election on local government reform. And before I go in to talking about local government reform, you would have heard on many occasions, not only on this platform, but throughout this entire campaign, that the local government system in Trinidad and Tobago is a broken system. And that is the reason why we have so many issues affecting you, the citizens, because as a member of parliament, I can tell you, 95% of the constituents that you see on a regular basis, the complaints are local government issues. And the PNM government is saying today that it is time that we break this broken system and bring it to an end once and for all. Because you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, depend and deserve better. This is the PNM, ladies and gentlemen, the PNM of Dr. Eric Williams, the PNM of George Michael Chambers, the PNM of Patrick Mervyn Augustus Manning, and the PNM of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, a legacy of leadership in this country that worked very hard from our independence to our Republican status. This is the PNM that give this country your national anthem. This is the PNM that led a delegation to Marlborough House in England to negotiate independence for Trinidad and Tobago. This is the PNM that gave you your coat of arms. This is the PNM that gave you our national flag, working in communities after communities to build Trinidad and Tobago. It has not been easy, because for every twist and every turn, those opposed to us have always opposed the PNM on every single progressive matter that we have brought for national development in Trinidad and Tobago. It is their history, and therefore it should not surprise you today. The young boys and the young girls who are dressed and clad in their red, PNM warriors, they need to understand that what we are facing today It has always been a battle for the PNM, pursuing policies and programs in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago, because they even oppose independence when we propose independence for Trinidad and Tobago. Can you believe that? They oppose it. And today, the PNM is saying, this same PNM that worked hard and give you and to give us sons and daughters independence, that gave us our Republican status, that give us policies and programs for free education, for free health care, that give us programs and policies to help vulnerable citizens in this country under our social safety net of $5 billion. This is the PNM that give you utility rates that are the best in the world, because we recognize that as children of a country that has rich energy resources, that we can benefit from these resources by paying low rates for electricity, low rates for water, low rates for gas, because the PNM believe that as citizens, we ought to share in our national patrimony. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the PNM, this same PNM with this rich national legacy, is telling you, every single citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, that our local government system is broken, and therefore we need reform, because it is now part of our national evolution. As the Prime Minister indicated, national development does not end. It is a continuous process. Today we will achieve something, tomorrow we are going to achieve something, and as challenges face us, it is our responsibility as a party to propose changes and to pursue policies for the benefit of our children. It is the same PNM government that introduced GATE, so that our young boys and young girls have access to tertiary level education, so that they can make themselves something, that they can come forward and contribute to national development. 30 years ago, if you did not have riches, if you did not come from a family of wealth, you could not have entered the doors of university. You could not have gone to universal secondary education. All these, ladies and gentlemen, are the legacies of the People's National Movement that all of us should be proud of, all of us. And therefore, it is this same PNM is telling the country today that we are going into a local government campaign, and you do what is right. You make the right choice. And we are going to put in place a new regime for local government that is going to empower your councillors, that is going to ensure that there is a stream of revenue going into the regional corporations and the boroughs all over, so that resources can be channeled towards dealing with some of the problems that plague us on a daily basis. What is so abominable about that? What is so objectionable about that? And even as this campaign comes to an end, the UNC and their bunch of vagabonds cannot even offer one policy proposal in response to what we are offering you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. They cannot do it. Their campaign is on crime, as though, if, God forbid, they should win this local government election, they can give this country what they are proposing. But they are not accustomed to lying to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. They are not accustomed to lying to our young boys and to our young girls, our sons and daughters. They are not accustomed. They are accustomed to doing it. They are accustomed to coming and playing on the insecurities and the minds of our citizens and putting proposals in place that they know they cannot deliver. And I want to ask the opposition leader, the opposition leader tonight, if you are so concerned about crime in Trinidad and Tobago, why did you oppose the bail bill? I sit as a legislator in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, representing the constituency of Lopino Borneo West. And every single piece of legislation that we brought to Parliament to tackle the crime situation in this country, it was met by opposition and filibustering. No support. They allow the bail bill to collapse. They allow the evidence amendment bill to collapse. They allow the anti-gang bill to collapse. They allow the whistleblower bill to collapse. They allow the cybercrime bill to collapse. All of these legislative interventions that would have allowed the police to prosecute those who are responsible for pursuing crime and mayhem upon decent and honest working citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. And there is a reason for it. There is a reason for it. Because had they support these legislations, ladies and gentlemen of the PNM, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, had they support these pieces of legislation in order to allow the police to do their work, because as legislators, our responsibility is to pass laws and to ensure that there's a legislative framework to tackle the criminals in this country. But that is not their concern, because had they done so, and had we have this situation under control, what would they have been campaigning on? So they wanted a reason to come to the campaign and to tell you, empty the clip, to tell you, stand your ground. This PNM government that brought a slew of legislation to parliament that they all opposed, to give the police the legislative teeth to tackle the issue of crime and violence. They opposed it because they never intended to work with the government to ensure that you have a safe and a secure country that we can all be proud of. But in addition to some of these legislative interventions that we have made, in addition to that, we recognize that we need to pursue programs and policies to help our young people, that our young people who find themselves in the margins of society for one reason or the other, that it is not about giving the police guns. It is not only about prosecuting, because that is also important. But what are we also doing to give them an option so that they can remove themselves from a life of crime and a life of violence? And we decided as a government, the Prime Minister leading the charge, putting together a Ministry of Youth for the very first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, a Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. Nowhere in the Caribbean, nowhere in the Commonwealth, nowhere in the world you can go and see that an entire government and an entire country put together a Ministry of Youth and National Development. Almost every single day, my colleague Minister Cummings, going from community to community, promoting the plans and promoting the programs in this and under this ministry so that our young people can have an option and not pursue a life of crime and a life of violence. This is what you must do in order to fight crime and to fight violence in our society, giving our young people an opportunity to make something out of themselves. But we have a mad Sukuya on the other side, offering all kinds of madness to this society. What is wrong with this woman? Somebody please get hold of Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. This woman has gone insane. I cannot believe what I'm hearing, what this woman is doing to herself every night, every Monday, every Thursday, making a blasted fool of herself. She is a disgrace to this society, and she's a disgrace to every woman in this society. Dr. Eric Williams did not die for that. Patrick Manning did not die for that. Not even Basdio Pandey. When he was Prime Minister, not my favorite person. But I am sure he is holding his head in shame every time he listens to Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. This woman has gone rogue, and there's a reason why she has gone rogue. Don't take it for granted, you know. Do not put God out of your thought and take that woman for granted. She is fighting for her political life, and in order to do that, she's prepared to mash up Trinidad and Tobago. That is what she is doing. In order for her to survive politically, she has gone rogue and is doing everything to make this country ungovernable, even arming one group of citizens against other groups in this society. I tell you this, none of you who are sitting here will get a firearm because she does not have the authority to issue firearms in this country. So when she tell you stand your ground, and she tell you she's going to arm every citizen, ask this mad woman what power she's going to have to give you firearms. She knows that she cannot do it, and she knows that she does not have the authority to do it. The issue and the issuance of firearms in Trinidad and Tobago, it falls under the remit of the Firearms Act and the police commissioner. So when she comes to you and gives you the impression that she's going to arm every citizen, that is a racial dog whistle in this country. It is a racial dog whistle in this country, and it is putting one class of citizen against the other class of the citizen, and we must reject that out of hand. We must reject it. And if she is concerned about fighting crime and fighting violence, come to the parliament. Let us pass bail bill. Let us pass anti-gang bill. Stand up and you tell the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago why you did not come to the parliament and rejected a bill that would allow young girls to marry big men. But I want you to connect the dots. Jack Warner described her as the most corrupt person on the face of the earth and running a most corrupt government on the face in Trinidad and Tobago, on the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Don't forget them. But watch him. Remember, he can't go Piaco. He can't even jump on a plane to go to Tobago. So you have to ask yourself, when a couple of years ago she said, Jack, clear your name, and she fired him as Minister of National Security. She fired him as Chairman of the United National Congress, and she said, you go and clear your name and come back. Did he clear his name? What caused the change? What caused the change? And as for that one they call Gary Griffith, he stood in the parliament and he said that you have criminals in the opposition. He came before a National Security Joint Select Committee and he told the National Security Joint Select Committee that there are opposition members who are colluding with criminals and passing sensitive information to them. So serious was his evidence that the PNM ministers and the PNM members of parliament had to pass a motion and suspend Rudal Munilal from the Joint Select Committee because he could not have been exposed to that sensitive information that was being given by Gary Griffith. What changed? What changed? I want you to ask yourself, what changed? Why are these men so desperate that they can put all their differences together to form themselves into an unholy trinity to occupy the corridors of power in Trinidad and Tobago? And she told Jack Warner, clear your name. And after you clear your name, you must come back to the UNC. Why she have David Lee sitting in the parliament? David Lee, the member of parliament for Pointe-à-Pied, is facing criminal charges, and he is her chief whip in the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Almost half of the opposition facing police investigation. And you have to ask yourself, brothers and sisters of the People's National Movement, when you see them behaving in the way that they are behaving, know that criminals will come together when they must in order to protect themselves. That is what they are doing, and that is what is facing this country. It is unfortunate that with all of the local government issues that we now have to caution you sensible people of Trinidad and Tobago and the PNM, that what is facing us is a mortal danger should we make the wrong decision on August the 14th. When I look at this great crowd here and I see the young people, I feel a sense of sadness in my heart because I cannot believe in 2023 I have to tell these young people why Jack Warner is bad for Trinidad and Tobago. I have to tell these people why Kamla Persad-Bissessar is unworthy of the office of Prime Minister in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. But we are the PNM, and we must not tire in speaking the truth, even when the truth offends. Because we have to continue day by day hour by hour, minute by minute, speaking and preaching the gospel of the people's national movement. Because if we do not do it, then God save Trinidad and Tobago, and God help each and every one of us. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, whether you form yourself into party groups, whether you form yourself into village councils, whether you form yourself into sporting organization, whether you form yourself into political groups, joining political parties, especially us in the People's National Movement, we are patriots of Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore we face a collective threat, and therefore we have to respond to this collective threat by rejecting them on August the 14th at this local government election. You have great candidates that the PNM presented. The PNM is not a pickup side. I would have seen when many of them would have appeared before your screening committee, not under a rum shop, not under a shed. Nobody ain't paying no bribe to put forward this candidate. None of their names are in police reports book. Nobody posting pictures of them accepting bribes for employment in the Chaguanas Borough Council. They went through a rigid process before the PNM screening committee, and the committee selected these 8 candidates, these 8 decent citizens, and say, put your trust in them, and they will bring to you a heightened level of responsibility, an improvement in the level of service to your lives, so that your communities can be far better. Look at what is being offered to you, that is offered to you by the UNC. Compare what is offered to you and look what we in the PNM are offering to you. And therefore, I feel a sense of pride when I hear the word and the name Andel Paraksuk, your next PNM councillor for Montrose. I feel a sense of pride to see your daughter, Stacey Murphy, your next PNM councillor for Edinburgh, Longdonville. I feel a sense of pride to see Devika Suku, your next PNM councillor for Felicity Endeavour. She came forward with a track record of service, because that is what the PNM, and that is the respect the PNM has for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, putting young men and young women, decent, honorable people who can represent your interests in national office. I feel a sense of pride when I see your own Sherwin Lucas, your next candidate for Charlottesville. Mr. Kevin Phillip, your next PNM councillor for Monroe Road, Caroni Savannah. Mahindra Rampasad, your next councillor for Cunupia. Mr. Andy Lewis, your next councillor for Enterprise South. And last but certainly not least, your next PNM councillor, Lisa Holder, your next candidate and your next councillor for Enterprise North. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, in the coming days, it is going to be very tough. We will not be afraid of Dwens and Sukuyas. We will not be afraid of the Ladia Bless of the UNC. Because they are political skunks. And if you understand what is a skunk, smell them. And the first thing that they do when they are cornered politically is to let go their skunk nastiness on you, so that you will not be able to differentiate yourself and them. That is what they are. And that is the reason why she surrounded herself by political skunks. Jack Warner. That is the reason why she surrounded herself by Arnold Roberts and Naked and all these bunch of people who should be hiding themselves and hiding their faces from you, the decent citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But I know that you are not going to be distracted by them. I know that you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, most of us are right-thinking citizens who want what is only good for our country. And we are going to put down a good political licking on Kamla Prasad Bisesa and a bunch of husbands. We will put down a good licking on them. And we will send them out in the Gulf of Paria, because that is where they deserve. They are unworthy of national office, and they believe that occupying the corporation and occupying public office is going to save them from the police. That is what they are doing. Don't be distracted. They believe that by occupying national office, they will not be held to account one day. But one day, Congo Te. I tell you this, night will surely follow day, and the long arms of the law will certainly catch up with them. They could run, but they cannot hide. And I tell you, all of your candidates here, come out in your large numbers and support them. They will be attacked. You will hear all kinds of nastiness about them, but you hold hold strong. Do not be distracted. Be comforted in the words of the Psalm in Psalm 23. Yea, though we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, thou shalt comfort me. You take comfort in the words of the Psalm, and we will do political battle. We will do battle in the east. We will do battle in the west. We will do battle in central. We will do battle in the south. And come the night of August the 14th, all of us will sing that great hallelujah song, and we will defeat our political foes, and all of us will sing that great and glorious song. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall, and we will always prevail.
All will be fine. Look, we made the right choice every time. Still a job to be done and a race to be won, and we know we will win every time. Just keep the faith, heads up high. We're together in this, you and I. Yes, the job will be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands again together for the Honorable Minister of Public Utilities. Now that is the minister that will transform WASA. That is the minister will bring forward good public utilities in Trinidad and Tobago. Some house announcements. PDU 238, please remove your car urgently. PCR 8380, please remove your car immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost to the end of our proceedings tonight. But coming to perform on this stage is my friend, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Shasha!
Check. Sugar, that's how you feeling. Anyway, the one and the wawa. Wanna gana. Anybody voting PNM? Somebody say PNM. The one and the wawa. Wanna gana. Oh, let's turn it up. Tell them, remember Elijah. Place a knob in the chariot of fire. Remember Daniel. Put it up in the lion's den. Somebody, remember Solomon. Who walk up on this earth as a wise man. Well, you're with PNM family. The biggest, the baddest in the land. Come on. Tell them, say, oh, God bless. Tell them, no matter how things get. Jah will pass you through the ways. Any young got to Jah bless. Tell them no matter how things get, Jah will pass you through the. Listen, come in no life so hard. Me nobody struggle, tell them down in the yard. And even when the links get so bad, it's only one man alone. Give her your 9 my reward. My mama always telling me, stay away from trouble daily. Keep away from bad company. Anything you want, ask the Almighty. Gazucha. No matter how hard things, Give me the next track. Give me the next track. Everybody here, just pray. Let me see the hands of believing in the Most High God. August 14, we say we go in red. All the red and ready? That one and whoa, mama, mama. That the whoa, da 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 da, yeah. That the whoa. You put the X by the police here. Come on the name. Oh, mama, mama, yeah, da 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 da. Oh, papa, papa, yeah. Sugar on us, I want to hear every voice. Low, 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 low. Let me pray for the country. Come on, sing, 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 sing. As I lay myself, I ain't here down in the back, down in the back, down in the back. Dover. If I shit, die for a week, I want my soul. You like them, no, 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 no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Call Lucifer is. What? Come on, come on, come on. Trying to destroy the yes, that man called. Come on! But I know Jah. Do you know your PNM family? Are you ready? I know Joe. Feliz mama, 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 mama. Let me sing one verse for you. Anyway. My soul low too, so the deep, so the deep, and I pray the Lord, my soul low too, kill it. If I see, before Lana, will it, pray the Lord, my soul low too, tell it. Many up, Kalanam, many up, Kalanam, them deep in there, la like, sing, Papa, la, no Lord of all, like, and not do Lord around. Fire! Judgment, come on! I know Joe. Do you know Joe? Let me see some hands in the air like this right now. PNM family, all who ready and ready, August 14. Somebody say fire! If all you love PNM, say fire, yeah. All right, let me sing. Sing it out. Don't you know and I'm wanting. Cause into the God, but I got to the one to the inner. To the picture when I be at this video. When I'm making love and I dig up with some sweet slow song. And I'm in his girlfriend, baby, and do all your hand. Brrr, like to be the wife up. You better go take your time, settle down. Yeah, cause I don't like back all night either. I want to hear my family sing it. Miss it. Let me remix it. Say, don't you know PNM is? Pull up. Somebody say fire. Yes, no, don't play the next one. If all they love PNM family and all they red and ready, August 14th, we praying with X by the ball is this. Somebody say fire. Give me the next shot. PNM family. Shogonas, are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah. I want to see some flags. All they put up the flag. All they wave it. Come on, everybody. Sing it. Say let it. Should be over. You ready? Yeah. We rolling with the red. You put the love for your place your foot with it. Do this. Should be go get ready. Yeah. Shogonas, are you ready? Say, come on, my people, let's stand together. Underneath the red, white, and black banner, yeah. Burn out corruption like leaves, it has scatter. Tricks and it's all the people them flattered. The partnership done sink already. We riding steady with Dr. Kid Rowley. Ready the right time. I've made up my mind to build back this idea in all you. On the show up. Are you ready? Are you ready? You for the love your vote with it. Shogona, say you ready, eh? We rolling with the red army. Your vote, we up the goes and say God is a tree. A blessed nation, the Caribbean envy. All of a sudden, like the place get heavy. Things are move right, God no like. Say, come on, my people, let's do this together. Build up this nation for one another. Say, come on, the children deserve better. Brighter days, and let's show for us. Are they ready? I know you. You're for the love of your country. Place your vote with it. Tobago, are you ready? Trinidad, get ready. Shogunas, get ready. I love you. Yeah. Everybody, when they see the kind of people we representing for the PNM, it's not no shakedown people here, you know. It's good people. And we ain't going to knock it on nobody. We're going to knock it with love. Somebody say, Red Army. One more. Sing it. Say let's. Should be a go while you're ready. We rolling with the Red Army. You're for the love of your country. Place your vote with it. Shogona, say you're ready. We rolling with the Red Army. You're for the love of your country. Place your vote with it. Pull up. Somebody say Red Army. Say Red Army. Red Army. I love everybody. I hope everybody reach home safe. August 14th, X by the Balize. PNM family. Love.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a wonderful night on 14th of August. Put your finger at the Balize and vote resoundingly for our team in the Shogunas Borough. Have a very good night. Be safe. God bless. See you soon. And on the 14th of August, it's PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. And we shall prevail. Good night.
Right? Yeah. Oh. Good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining and getting ready to engage us and to share the live and to just have a good chill vibes with us. This is Rock and Come In, part 3. And, as you all come in, asking you all to please share the live and let's invite persons to come on board. And we have a song that we want to play here to get the things started. So, Ed, you'll give us that mighty song.
Nice support, everybody. Good evening, Sanabad.
Such a rarity to born in TNT. You could see that as lucky or unlucky. But once you're living here, this is your family. Ayo, 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 ayo. Niceness of the land isn't the sea and sand. Is the champion in every citizen. So don't let nothing hold our people down. Ayo, ayo, ayo. Cause when we cry, it is be for a short time, and when we smile, it is stretch from mile a mile just to survive. Oh, it takes spirit deep inside, we always shine. Yeah. And I could say exactly why. Cause we create the rhythm in this calypso. And we who make the carnival at the world. Oh, so if you feel it, you should let it show. Cause we are mighty, mighty. Yes, we who make the pan in the last century. And people from Japan coming here just to see. So if you're doubting your ability, but it's the country, cause we are holy. Tell them, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo. La-da-dee-doo. Even though we are 1.4 million, we just make quality men and women with intentions to forge we nation on.
Ayo, 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 ayo.
Is the struggles we face here every day that make the leaders rise out we community and sometimes creating great history.
Ayo, ayo, ayo.
See what they strive for was as strong as TNT, risking their lives. Oh, the common folk like you and me, we know they had cure for them to fight so viciously. So take some time to respect legends of TNT. Cause here is when the guarded fight for civil rights. And Anthony Sabga break economic strife. And you right about the colonials are fight.
Cause we are mighty, mighty.
Sierra James make the people stand up tall. And Leroy Clark give TNT his all. So tell me, how could you say you wanna fall?
Cause it's the country,
Cause we are holy. Tell them, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo. Boom, bang, ba-dee-dee-da.
Indeed, indeed, how mighty we are as a nation, mighty we are as a people. I think we have to be so proud and patriotic and crazy as a country in terms of how far we have, how far we have came. So good evening again, everyone. I'm here. My name is KAREEM Marcel. I'm here with my brother Kwesi Robinson. Kwesi, how everything?
Good to know. A few more days to go to the election. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining all the lives we had before and sharing it. I mean, the feedback has been excellent, and even in the criticism, we're happy to get the feedback.
Yeah.
So good night, everyone. We have our next rock and come in, part 3.
Yeah. We especially in the last live, we were able to take some questions and so on, and in this live too, we would make some
Scott, you ready?
sometime. Scott is our official
Question.
our official question reader, chief executive question. But I would have watched. I'm the type of person, Dr. He said that, he does watch, he don't deny that he does watch news and he just read all the newspapers. So if you really want him to see something, you put it in the newspaper.
You're really bright like he, because I can't see the same. I can't see the same about me, but you're really bright like Dr. Rowley. Again, that you're bright. Yeah, bright.
No, I ain't bright. I ain't not bright.
No, I mean, you're very bright. Man,
Don't worry, man.
But I know that.
You know that?
There will be some TikTok.
That is the biggest lie. Yeah. But it was important that I watched very carefully the last Monday night forum of the United National Congress, because it's always very important for you to know what is being fed to the general public, what message a major political party like the United National Congress is putting out to our electorate. Just as how we would listen to the PNM, we listen to the UNC and so on. And there was a Mrs. Pasabi Sessa, although trying to double down on the harsh stand, and she's not talking about load up the matic again, and she's saying that she understands that she failed badly in relation to cultural appropriation. and instead try to, say, well, she's trying to learn our language and she's trying to, understand us and and feel us and so on. But what was very important to me was, I have a clip that I want to play, and Ed, yes, I just want you all to pay attention to this clip here, and we're going to discuss it after.
Your agents in those stations, put them on the manners. Light them up. Light them up. And we must remember, how did they choose these returning officers? Of course, a letter be sent from the party to find out the names of the presiding officers and deputy presiding officers. And if they are conflicted, we will light them up as well. We will.
Brothers and sisters, we have to be very careful. We are living in a nation that is faced with a serious crime situation, a situation that we again ought not to trivialize, and a situation where we are trying to grapple with, and all hands should be on deck. Mrs. Fasad Bissessa has based her campaign on creating fear, on trying to commercialize murders and crime, and generally they're speaking a level of fear into this country. And when you have a political leader of the United National Congress, an opposition leader, a self-proclaimed senior counsel, a parliamentarian for decades, is coming to this country and is coming to us and telling us that we must handle the presiding officers and the deputy presiding officers, and we must light them up.
Like what? Like how she said, light them up. Which light up is that?
Well, the last, Ed, there was a. I want you to go back to that clip and so that we can put it in context.
What light it? What
light it up means? I know what light it up means to me. I know what light it up might mean to you. To edit might be light it up. You all heard the video, right?
So, Kareem, what I want to know, the light them up there is the same light up from last night? Well, from Monday night, I don't know.
Well, that is what we have to ask. We have to ask the question, is it a case where Mrs. Fasad Bissessa is trying to incite a level of violence, and the violence to be projected against our independent institutions and our independent process? You see, why we started with the song Mighty is that we must be proud of where we are at as a country. We have had the Elections and Boundaries Commission in Trinidad and Tobago. We have had the different countries from the Commonwealth coming to Trinidad and Tobago and wanted to know, how do we get it so right?
Yes.
How do we have free and fair elections? Each election that is called is free and it is fair in this country. We have had the world looking at our Elections and Boundaries Commission and commending us about our independence and about our efficiency.
Kareem, hold on. I think we need to play over that video. I think the same.
Oh,
thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Thank you very much for those.
Empty the whole clip. Empty it. Light them up. Reload. We have to fight fire with fire.
You all heard it there?
So y'all give us a thumbs up if you all heard the audio, right? Right, perfect. So when we put it into context, if you are saying one night that when you're using light them up in relation to stand your ground and load up the matic and reload it and empty it on them, one night And then the next night, you come and use that exact phrase again.
To EBC.
To EBC officials.
But KAREEM, let me tell you something about the People's National Movement and its ability to be a national party for so long. One, we stand by institutions and the insinuation that if somebody belongs to a particular organization, they cannot be impartial. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
It is the People's National Movement that appointed a former UNC National Security Minister as the Commissioner of Police, National Security Advisor.
The biggest mistake Dr. Roddy ever made, but
what I'm saying is, understand where we are. We have that, and then we have a situation where to head our state institutions, our Prime Minister, the cabinet will make a decision to appoint somebody who was a former UNC member, former UNC candidate, a former UNC in the leadership, because it is about the country. It's about country.
PNM is on record. Our history, it's in our DNA to always put country before party. And that is exactly what it is. Because all these different examples that you would have given, Dr. Ali didn't say, what would be the best thing for the PNM boy?
No.
He said, what would have been the best thing for the country? I mean, at least that is what he thought when he would have elected. He would have supported Gary Griffith for commissioner.
And I mean, it's not about this bitterness and this campaign of hate and division. That cannot work. As it stands now, the UNC has 7 corporations and the PNM has 7. So what bitterness and hate can we spew in this campaign when the change that we are attempting to make, that we're going to make in this local government reform, impacts 7 corporations at the UNC and 7
that are PNM? Yeah?
So it's really about the PNM, and in this campaign, really about the best for the country and not division.
Yeah, most certainly. But brothers and sisters, I want us to pay close attention. Now, we started off with this comparing Mrs. Prasad-Bissesa's statement in relation to the presiding officers in San Fernando, right? And telling her supporters to light them up. But what was more important and what we have to do is to go deeper into the psyche of that woman, that dangerous woman called Kamla Prasad-Bissessa. That dangerous woman, as she called herself, and she claimed to be a dangerous woman, would have delved seriously into undermining our independent institution time after time after time. And whilst we say this country is mighty, it is mighty because we are able to observe the rule of law. We are able to understand the separation of power. We are such a country that have respect for our institutions. We understand that we have an independent office of the DPP, an independent Elections and Boundaries Commission, an independent judiciary, an independent integrity commission. But yet still, every single time Mrs. Prasad-Bissessa, that dangerous woman, every time this dangerous woman gets to try to destabilize or to cause a lack of trust in our independent institution, she does it. And I want to bring up this clip here, and this is where I want to focus this evening. Ed, play that clip for me from last night, please. Ed? Play that the clip 2.
Clip 2.
Please.
In 2017, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer, her name was Lena Sahadeh. She worked for the EBC for 24 years. She was bypassed to appoint Fern Nasser Scope, who was a junior contract officer, as the EBC's new Chief Elections Officer. It is alleged, Wade tells me all the time, that this lady was a close family member of a sitting PNM minister and bestie of the current Minister of Education, and then become to one of the senior commissioners of the BC. He's a senior partner in a law firm that since this government came into power has received over $23 million in legal briefs. These are the people, and that is why I renew my call. I repeat my call for international observers, election observers.
KAREEM, so I just, while I was listening to you, two things came to mind. One I spoke about earlier. Because you belong to a particular organization, let us say, and it may not be true what I'm saying, because somebody belongs to the PNM or the UNC, the card do the job. I have friends who are doctors who are UNC.
What?
And I go to them for service in the hospitals. And I don't believe for 1 second that they're going to spew any hate or is a threat to my life. And the second thing is when the PNM, every time the PNM loses election, we don't go forward and say the EBC and good. The country has made a decision and we live by it. And when we lost in 33, lick the wounds, 1995 I think is the next time, and then in the early 2000s. So we lick our wounds, get strong as a party, make the changes people recommend, like we did in 2010, and by 2015 we're back in office. So in 2010 when the PNM lost, the EBC was good.
Yeah.
Once the PNM lost, I know about people like that, you just call them, pick up your ball and go home. All the time the ball good.
Yeah.
When you score in goal. When you start to lose, the ball ain't good, the road ain't good, the ground ain't good.
You see, Gracie, the chief elections officer of the EBC is an independent office holder. She is no member of the People's National Movement. She is no member of any political party. She is unbiased. Her record is unblemished. But yet still you have Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar continuously fighting and literally going to war with our chief elections officer. First, and you know, this is not the first time that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, in her reckless attempt, have continued to link the chief elections officer to that of Maxi Coffee. But Mrs. Persad-Bissessar should be an expert on slave master names. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar should know the difference between CUFFY and CUFFIE. And Dr. Rowley explained it best. And do you have that clip of Dr. Rowley?
Now, by law, the Election and Boundaries Commission is involved. Even that they're attacking. And talk about lie. The head of the Election and Boundaries Commission is a woman whose surname is Coffee. We used to have a minister in our government called Maxi Coffee. You know, it have a coffee, CUFFY. I know that one, that my son-in-law on them. And they have a coffee spelled FFIE. Coffee in the PNM is one spelling. Coffee at the EBC is the other spelling. You know, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar was told on many occasions after Wademark and his friends lied on the EBC head that she is Maxi's niece. And the PNM put she there to undermine the process and to do wrong things for the PNM. No, Olio, they're not related. It sounds the same, but one is a CUFFY coffee and the other is a CUFFIE coffee, and they're not related. That was since Maxi was in the government to start that, eh? You know, a couple of weeks ago, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, in her campaign against this institution of this country, wrote to the CAREEM Secretariat head office in Guyana, complaining that we put a government minister needs to run the Election and Boundaries Commission. And therefore she wants observers to come to observe the election because the government minister needs running the EBC, and therefore you will have election cheating. Signed, Kamala Persad-Bissessar.
That woman, ladies and gentlemen, is a dangerous, treacherous woman. A dangerous woman to the independence of our country.
KAREEM, EBC was good when the PNM 15.
Yeah, well, you see, the last time the EBC was good was in 2010.
No, No, the EBC was good when we lose the THA.
Nah, forget THA, because remember UNC is not a national party.
Okay.
Right? And they said that they have no connections in Tobago.
Right.
So let's say that, all right, and they're not even a national party, they're not even either my party. Right? Because they ain't contesting 141 seats in Trinidad either.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is, when in 2010, Mrs. Prasad Bissessa would have wiped the floor with the PNM. 2912. The EBC was the best thing since sliced bread. When right after that local government election came, and they wiped the floor with they come and get municipal corporations and they never get before. They go Martin, Arima, Tungapuna. Well, not again, not ever, not even if the breakdown of Mama. No. So it is only good. Kamala Prasad Bissessa seems to only respect the decisions of the EBC when she wins.
It have to be. We have to live in a country where when we win, it's good. And when we lose, it also good. Because I'm saying that, and I know, as I said before, I have the privilege of serving in the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. I have Kelly Village, I have Karani, and I'm Maloney, and I have Lokata. So I meet Burgesses from all walks of life, and I have Valsane, and I have Bamboo, and I have Bangladesh, and I have Farm Road, and I have Elizabeth Gardens. That message from the leadership of that party is not what the membership want to know. I'm saying that in a particular seat, there's a UNC candidate, and I mean we fight during elections, and when they win, you feel like complaining that the EBC was wrong because the UNC win that seat?
Yeah.
No, it can't be. We can't live like that.
But I would put this country on notice, that the only reason Kamala Prasad Bissessa, that dangerous self-appointed silk opposition leader, that dangerous woman, the only reason that she's going down that road is because she already conceded, you know. Mrs. Prasad Bissessa is preparing not on the local government election, you know. Mrs. Prasad Bissessa is running an internal election campaign. So what she's feeding into her supporters is that but when on the night
of the
14th of August, when she gets her tail washed,
we thief.
The thief. We thief. And all how when you link it back, Kamala Prasad Bissessa is imitating that of Donald Trump. She is imitating all in the stand your ground, in her approach to undermine independent institutions and EBC and so on. It's because she's imitating Donald Trump and the Republicans. And I want to share this clip with you all, and you all taking this clip here.
When you think you're going to win an election by a landslide and you actually lose all of the seats and you do no analysis subsequent to that, it tells you that something is wrong and that the leadership is fearful. In 2013, we lost the THA election, we lost the by-election in St. Joseph, we lost to Jacquana in Chaguanas West, and then we lost 5 local government corporations. We went from 11 to 6. All in 2013, whilst we were in the incumbent government.
And therefore, your capacity to attract those persons may come back to the UNC, but under a different leader. Your leader is tainted, and people in this country vote for leadership.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
We discovered 171 irregularities in one polling station.
If there was evidence of wrongdoing, then clearly the UNC would have gone to court. They would have been challenging the EBC or pounding down the Commissioner of Police to make a statement. Do you know why the UNC is not pursuing this? Because the UNC leadership does not believe that there was any wrongdoing in the election. Let me say it again. There was no wrongdoing in the election, and the UNC leadership knows this.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Tonight, I am not giving any concessionary speech. I am not conceding. No, I said blank. Blank. I said blank. I said blanking. I said blank.
Breaking news, a second GOP senator is now calling on President Trump to resign following Wednesday's deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol.
The former UNC senator has joined several voices calling for Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar to step down as political leader of the United National Congress.
UNC party! Good evening!
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the dangerous woman they call Kamala Persad-Bissessar. And that is Donald Trump. And what she's trying to do to Trinidad and Tobago is to create what Donald Trump did with the Capitol riots. What she's trying to do is to make us distrust our independent process, our mighty country, our mighty processes, our independent processes, and have continued year after year, election after election, decade after decade, in continuing free and fair elections. So when Mrs. Persad-Bissessar is trying to cause distrust before election, we know it's because she already knows that she will lose. And what she's doing is trying to solidify her base. What she's doing is no different than what many of her colleagues do with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It is what they continue to do with the office of the DPP. They try to create this misconception that these independent institutions are tainted by the PNM or in some cahoot or doing some sort of illegal activities with the PNM. That is what she's trying to do. So that when these people are charged, and when these people are brought before the court, or when they lost an election, or when the Integrity Commission finds them at fault, or that they breach the Integrity in Public Life Act, that they can jump up and say, the thief.
KAREEM, let me give you a real story here.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, I was a part of the management team for the candidate for Valse in St. Joseph. Real story, actually cried when we lost the night. Cried tears. And hotly contested seat St. Joseph is a marginal. And cried the night when we lost, but it was a long, hard election. I remember sleeping on the ground in the office because I wanted to get up the next day to work because we had to win the seat. Unfortunately, the UNC won the seat. And after we won the seat, I went on to become the chairman of the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go and take community meetings in that electoral district with the UNC councillor because I'm now the chairman.
Yeah.
And the councillor wants to serve because, of course, because he is was a UNC candidate, and you know, in the council, for me and for the PNM, we have to serve everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I move in with the UNC councillor. When there's a problem in St. Joseph, we go in. It was beyond me how after winning the local election in St. Joseph in 2019, in 2020, when the LSING put a proper up and down licking on them,
mm-hmm.
EBC corrupt and irregularities.
Mm-hmm.
So within 12 months, you win.
Yeah.
I cry. And 2 weeks after when I get swain, I had to take a picture next to the UNC councillor.
Yeah.
But again, you wouldn't see any press release on the PNM saying that the EBC was corrupt when we lost Valse in St. Joseph.
Yeah.
We come together and we worked. I worked together with that councillor.
Yeah.
No malice in the council.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to come and say that EBC is corrupt, this is the same EBC that they put the licking on me.
Yeah. You see, what that also does, if you recall, in 2015, when the PNM won the election, and even in 2020, social media was flooded with a set of attacks of them against us and us against them.
They do have that. It's not them against us.
And what happened there was the doing of Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Because when you set up your supporters to believe that they are entering into a process, and once they lose, it's because the PNM stole the election, it's because you are preparing your supporters to be outraged.
And one of the things I learned from, I heard Martin Joseph said it when he managed the campaign, I heard Honorable Rohanson, and you hear Farris say it, you hear Foster say it, you hear Column say it. There are no enemies, we are political opponents.
Mm-hmm.
You go there, be respectful. I remember that talk with Martin Joseph, God rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
When they're talking, especially when they're working in marginals, be respectful for everybody, go. And so it is within our upbringing to be respectful, to put the country first, and to also respect the process. So this push to hate and division, I know from serving in the Tunapuna Corporation that even members of the UNC, the grassroots members, their rank and file members, do believe in that rhetoric. They don't.
Yeah, and that is why Skippy would have said it. Skippy said, if really and truly there were any irregularities in the election process, the UNC that run to court for our extra, the UNC that run to court, if they belongs to toe, they run to court.
I mean, I just think it's about division, and for us in the PNM, it has to be about coming together.
Yeah,
it has to be coming together.
Most certainly. And why is the precursor in this? Is to really encourage our citizens to have faith and to respect and honor our independent institutions in this country. Because God knows they do not deserve our independent office holders, who there's no shred of, not even an ounce, an inch of evidence in relation to any bias. And you have an opposition leader who is rallying hate and outrage against these independent institutions. We, not just the PNM, not just NTA, not just PEP, not just UNC, we, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, must reject that. We are greater than that. We are mightier than that. And we must come together and we must honor and respect our independent institutions so that we can live in a democratic society where you can be any religion, any race, from any from the upper class, the middle class, the lower class, any. I mean, I heard the honorable political leader, opposition leader, saying she invented a new class. She say it had the catch-ass class.
I don't know about that.
Right? No, but you see, and Mrs. Persad-Bissessar is such a hypocrite. Because you're talking now about catch-ass, the catch-ass that it no middle class, no, it's only a catch-ass class. But the next minute, you're saying stand your ground and let people buy guns. If people catching their ass and they can't buy food, how they get money to buy it? How they get money to buy guns?
And Kareem, what I am saying again, we and the PNM and we as a country have to reject division. We have to say, I am not dividing the country. Place too small. We have to live together. I mean, this is what, and that's why we picked these songs, Kareem, that we start off with. And today's song, in terms of mighty, they didn't say half the country mighty, you know. So the country, everybody mighty.
All of us.
And when the PNM loses a seat, it is not that the EBC is bad. It cannot be, it has to be fair on both sides.
We respect, PNM, time and time again. We hear the cries. We accept when we go wrong.
Yeah.
We accept when we lose a seat. It's not because anybody stole it. We accept that we have to do work. So you know what we do? We put on our boots, we lace it up, and we go back down, and we get it, and we get it, and we get it right until we get it back. That's why we don't stay in a position. You can imagine any political leader of the People's National Movement losing more than 12 elections and still being political leader. You can imagine that? And you know, the funny thing when they talk about the about EBC now running a fair thing and the bias and so on. Every internal election run by the United National Congress, Munila said to find how much box there, how much ballot box there with votes. Munila did say that when he went over there in scam now. So they can't even run a fair internal election. They cannot run a fair internal election, but come and question and come and degrade our independent institution. But brothers and sisters, I don't want to spend too much time on Kamlan and nonsense, you know. The PNM, we have an election away. We are 5 days away from the next local government elections. That is Monday, the 14th of August, 2023. We know what is our message. Our message is a local government reform. Local government reform is the greatest power shift since independence, and we stand by that. Local government reform is about bringing the services, the services, the power, the resources, everything closer to your community.
Must be people.
To you, the people.
Power to the people.
That is power to the people. And what local government reform is about is transforming and bettering our lives, making our issues resolve faster. But you see, the UNC are a bunch of hypocrites, led by a dangerous, dangerous woman. And I know, and you know, that local government reform
is the right thing.
It's the right thing. And you know who know too? And I want you to show Trinidad and Tobago who also know that local government reform is the best thing for Trinidad and Tobago. Well, let's take a look at that.
I'm an attorney at law at profession. Firstly, let me start off by saying that I do agree with the proposal of the reform of the local government sector in terms of the greater autonomy being afforded to the municipalities. With respect to the tax collections, I believe it's a good idea.
We really need local government reform.
So they support reform, and I guess you're wondering why they still voted against it. Maybe it's this.
You have to support your party. You say you support country before party. Well, go to hell. Go to hell.
Reform of the local government system is the pathway towards fulfillment of the covenant between the government and the people to mutually work towards the improvement of the quality of lives of all our citizens through the delivery of superior services and amenities, as well as comparative with the local needs and expectations. Essentially, local government is about empowering persons and communities to manage their affairs in accordance with the accepted democratic principles. Significantly, some of the core focal areas of local government reform should include structure of the local government, finance and taxes, human resource and productivity, the legislative reform, infrastructure and service delivery, community involvement, citizens' participation, and also importantly, participation of women and youths, health and the environment, technology and communication.
We really need local government reform.
So they support reform, and I guess you're wondering why they still voted against it. Maybe it's this.
You have to support your party. You say you support country before party. Well, go to hell. Go to hell.
I'm very happy to hear you talk about the taxes and the fact that local government will be allowed to retain taxes.
We really need local government reform.
So they support reform, and I guess you're wondering why they still voted against it. Maybe it's this.
You have to support your party. You say you support country before party. Well, go to hell. Go to hell.
I hear that clip, and what I want to say is this. Local government reform is not for PNM people. local government reform is for the improvement of Trinidad. Next week, Monday, is not a vote in an election in its narrow sense. Next week, Monday, is a referendum on you and I as citizens. If we acknowledge that there's a problem and we want to repair and fix and also move forward, because a lot of what we hear about reform is about fixing the problems. So I always tell my colleagues, there are some countries that focused on the low-level problems. I am saying that in addition to focusing on those, let us be visionary, let us create. And I think that is what local government reform gives us an opportunity to do. To fix the problems, yes, but also create new avenues, have more spaces like the Eddie Hart, improve the Eddie Hart, improve our markets, because those things are tourism hubs, they are cultural hubs, and they're also traditions. So it's important for us to understand what the reform is. It's economic hubs, because in our Caribbean sense, in the early days, we didn't have multinational corporations. It's our markets and our economic hubs that created employment for persons. So I'm saying that we have an opportunity here next week, Monday, to vote for something that's going to fix the problems that we have. It's not a magic bullet that will fix every single problem. But I can guarantee you, if you support this local government reform, your community is going to be better. And there are some corporations that it's difficult for the PNM to win. Penal Day, I don't think the PNM has ever had a councillor there for a long while. I don't think the PNM has had a councillor. But I can tell you, with local government reform and support for the PNM to understand that we have that support of the citizenry to implement local government reform, even those corporations that will continue to be held by the UNC will improve.
Yeah.
So in every single place where there's a PNM candidate, go out and support them.
Yeah.
Because we need the support. It's politics.
Yeah. You see, look, many people are saying that, local government not important, local government elections not important, and it's not a big thing. I'm telling you, local government reform this time around makes this local government election the most important local government elections this country have ever seen and will ever see. This is the time for us as citizens to recognize the good. This is the time for us to take off our blinders and to understand that we are stepping into a new era of representation, a new type of representation, a representation which is closer to us, a representation from people that we know in our communities, who live in our communities, who we are able to reach out to and have the power to fix it. Could you imagine? Because what councillors would be, essentially, you will have councillors who really is mini minister of public utilities, mini minister of works, mini minister of social development, that could be easily accessible to you in your community. Easily accessible. And that's why it's very, very, very important that we pay attention to it, that local government, that we understand that local government is important, and that we come out and we vote resoundingly for local government reform and vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement.
So Kareem, I want to say good night to some of the people on the live: Jacqueline Benjamin, Kevin Springer, Sheldon Jack, Omega Charles, Maria Hollingsworth. So I'm asking, we have Scott ready to read out some questions or some comments. If you all have anything to say, just say, Scott, I want to hear this topic. So we're giving you all, we have 10 more minutes left on the live. So Scott, you all could come in. Kareem Robinson, good night. No relation.
I saw no relation.
I'm not sure.
Can't believe all same masters, all same master names connected. Right. Yeah. So you have to be careful. We have to be careful with that.
Pastor Google, good night, Pastor
Google.
I
saw Auntie Jenny Auntie Jennifer Baptiste Privas. Yeah, my big brother. So I see Juliet is on the live, everyone. Thank you very much for joining.
So you all have any questions that you all want Scott to read out?
Dennis, everyone. Right?
Any questions for Scott to read out? And also, we're going to have the final live will be later in the week before the election. And we're going to
this man has just been booking me alive. Like every time I come here, I would say, boy, and there's the last live. And this man would just be saying me on the next live. Yeah, boy.
So we actually, Ed is actually working on a solution so we could take some calls. So hopefully by
I know. I didn't tell her that.
And watch that. He didn't even tell her that, you know.
I see Kerwin McDonald said, "Oh, good God, boy, a breath of fresh air." Ronnie John said, "Blessings to you, bro."
Blessings, blessings, blessings. So, y'all, we appreciate all the love, all the support that has been that have been coming. I do this out of pure love. I do it out of pure interest and to seek the best that Trinidad has to offer. I can't fake it. I can't fake it. I can't fake it. And if I did not believe that the People's National Movement was not the best option, then I would not have encouraged you to do so.
And it is posted on whenever the player moves something, like it's posted.
Yeah, it's a Russia. If it's one thing to know, if you're doing nonsense, you're doing nonsense when it comes in, right? And it's important that we put country always before party, that we see each other as fellow men, as brothers and sisters, before we see each other as political opponents and enemies.
You see the enemy.
Elections will come and elections will go. Trinidad and Tobago, we are such a beautiful melting pot of so many different races, different cultures coming together and living peacefully, having elections peacefully. We're not chopping up each other.
Kareem, I had to come in here, you know. Arita from Tabakit say is love. Make sure and tell her that. So I had to cut you there. You know?
Yeah, PNMS love, you know.
And the thing is, I represent the Tunapuna market. It's the best market. I mean, you all in the live will know Tunapuna market is the best market in the country.
I don't concur.
We'll have a debate on that. But Tunapuna market is the best market.
What I do know is that the best markets in Trinidad and Tobago is all under the municipal corporations that are led by the People's National Movement. That we can agree on.
Well, I mean, that is so also. But I want to talk specifically about what happens in Tunapuna. In all my life, going to Tunapuna market, and more so when I became, because I like markets. I used to go market with my grandma in Arima, and with my wife in Tunapuna. I used to stop. My wife like market also. She's also on the live. And when I... Yeah,
you like market more than Pastor.
He grew up in the market.
Pastor grew up in the market.
Mr. Agnes' son. Uncle Neville. So when I go to the Tunapuna market and we're trying to push improvements to the Tunapuna market, there is no PNM vendor, there is no UNC vendor, there is no PNM customer, there is no UNC customer. There is only customers and vendors, and we come together as one. And I'm saying, in this local elections, as it continues to heat up, it don't have no enemy. We are opponents, but have no enemies in this thing. And anybody calling for division is not where we want to be. Because when we're done, next weekend, we have to go and line up in the market together and wait for them to cut up with chicken. So I'm saying that this is important. Ed, the final buffer of Ed too much. Curlin Kinlock say when they go lowest, we go highest. Tunapuna market is love. Mosi Robinson, I mean, no relation again to that Robinson.
Tell Kamla that. You tell Kamla that. Let me see how that go.
Glennis Phillips say when I in Trinidad, I go into that market. Yeah, Tunapuna market.
Yeah. But brothers and sisters, there's the time where we thank you very much for coming out. We remind you that local government elections is on Monday, the 14th of August, 2023. We remind you that local government is important. We remind you that the People's National Movement, we are proposing local government reform. The PNM is proposing the greatest power shift since independence. And we are asking you to please, especially our young people, to get up early and go to the polls. Exercise your right to vote. Vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement. And let us transform and reform representation in local government. We appreciate all the love, all the support, and we don't take it lightly. We don't take it lightly.
So in closing, guys, I also want to thank you all.
Some comment?
So that's a whole. Before I wrap up, Scott, there waiting. You all hearing Scott? Testing, Scott.
Testing. All right. Before.
Good night, Scott. So let me hear some comments.
We have one question from a viewer. They're asking if Dr. Roddy will be on the next night.
And I mean,
we know local government election campaign a very heated one, but I will have to probably message Dr. Roddy after this and see how his schedule is looking, and we'll see how things go. Or they try to put me in hot water here.
So in wrapping up, guys, remember it is about love. It's about genuine care and concern for this country that we have, this republic, this one country that we have to live here together. And all the division is not where this campaign ought to be. We have young candidates. We have Patrick, and we more than great, we mighty. We have Patrick up in the east. We have Teresa. We have Josiah. We have a whole set of young candidates representing PNM. There's the young fella from, I can't remember his name now. I'll remember it next time. We shall probably have a couple of candidates.
We are Clinton in Port of Spain. And you know,
Jaron Mohammed.
And as you say that young people thing, I realized that I came across some posts where some UNC opponents are by Patrick and they keep referring, using this buzzword, but young, trying to say that young equals inexperience. And it's important that we know that the PNM has presented candidates that have our youth who are very capable. We have experienced persons, and we have a nice blend. And we know that once you're under the solid arms of the People's National Movement, that we understand representation like no other in this country. And therefore, whether you're young like Patrick or you're experienced like Mr. Robinson.
I'm 35 years old. My birthday is in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. But y'all,
so we also want to find out what topics you all want us to discuss going forward. You all could send it there so Scott will save it. We're also trying to get Ed to take some calls. I think Pastor Google says he has a solution for it. So I just say good night, Kareem, in closing, good night, and we love you all. Thank you very much for the support. I want to thank Ryan, Sue, who can be with us this evening, Scott,
Ed. I want to cut here. Ed, but the song, the new campaign song, you have that close by?
Right choice.
All
right, Ed, we can go blame you, but let me end with.
We're going up with the mighty.
So
y'all, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. Thanks for spreading and sharing the love. We love you all. The PNM love you. The PNM cares for you. We are the only true national party. And on the evening of Monday the 14th,
you trying to call
Monday the 14th, August 2023. Whether we meet in town, whether we meet in Balisay House Central, whether we go in the road by Tranquility, we should all meet and we shall say, great is the PNM. And we have prevailed.
Good night, Ed. Line up this song, Ed.
Nice support, everybody. Good evening, Senator. Such a rarity to born in TNT. You could see that as lucky or unlucky. But once you're living here, this is your family. Ayo, 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 ayo. Niceness of the land is in the sea and sand. is the champion in every citizen. So don't let nothing hold our people down.
Ayo, ayo, ayo.
Cause when we cry, whoa, it is before a short time. And when we smile, whoa, it is stretch from mile to mile just to survive. Oh, it takes spirit deep inside, we always shine. Yeah. And I could say exactly why. Cause we create the rhythm in this calypso. And we who make the carnival at the world. Oh, so if you feel it, you should let it show. Cause we are mighty, mighty. It's we who make the pan in the last century. And people from Japan coming here just to see. So if you're doubting your ability, but it's the country, cause we are holy. Tell them, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo. Even though we are 1.4 million, we just make quality men and women with intentions to forge we nation on.
Ayo, 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 ayo.
It's the struggles we face here every day that make the leaders rise out we community and sometimes creating great history.
Ayo, ayo, ayo.
See what they strive for was a stronger TNT, risking their lives for the common folk like you and me. We know they had cure for them to fight so viciously. So take some time to respect legends of TNT. Cause here is when the guarded fight for civil rights. And Anthony Sabga break economic strife. And you right about like the colonials are fight.
Cause we are mighty, mighty.
Sierra James make people stand up tall. And Leroy Clark give TNT his all. So tell me how could you say you wanna fall?
But it's the country,
cause we are holy. Tell them, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo, la-da-dee-doo. Boom, bang, ba-dee-dee-da. Everywhere we go, people always agree that we are the life of the party.
We sweep in this country clean. Hallelujah. We can't fail. Next in the tail. Hallelujah. Great is the PNM. It shall prevail. Sweep in town. Sweep in town. Sweep in town. One nation is a one people today, a dynamic diversity. A party strong because all along we celebrate our plurality. Equality right across the board, everybody have a chance. That's why all along every place in town is locals leading the dance. We're talking about the ultra-modern social infrastructure. Education become priority one of the national agenda. Hallelujah. We ain't making no dotish mistake. Hallelujah. So when them opposition get they go take. Hallelujah. I wanna say okay, you know what I mean. Hallelujah. Bring all your broom and sweep in this country clean. Hallelujah. We can't fail. 50 years on this trail. Hallelujah. Great is the PNM. It shall prevail. Sweep in town. Sweep in town. Sweep in town. Get your broom now.
All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with your candidate, Mr. Jason Ramkisoon, and he's the candidate for Gasparilla Bonaventure, and he's here with some of his burgesses, and they are here to ask some burning questions. It's like a little cottage meeting, so you're going to be hearing some of the questions that the Burgesses have. They have some burning questions that they want to ask Jason. So we're going to hand over to Jason, and Jason is going to interact with them. And so those of you on the live, you can share the live, tell somebody, hey, who live in Gospel, who you know live in Gospel, share the live with them and let them know that we are live here with Mr. Jason Ramke soon, and he is about to interact really nicely with his Burgesses and they. So make sure and share the live, tell somebody to come on. So let me say good evening again, and we're going to be really interested in what is about to be shared. So let me hand over to Jason, and Jason is going to interact with his Burgesses and they.
Pleasant night, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to welcome all guests, all residents at our meeting tonight. I am anxiously awaiting, our questions and being able to answer your concerns as residents of the Gasper Bonaventure district. My name is Jason Ramke. I am the PNM's candidate for local government elections, Gasper Bonaventure. Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night. So we have Angela here with her first question.
Good night. My question is tonight, and would like to know, in case of flooding, what help the people will, they will assist with? Yeah.
Good night, Angela. That is quite an appropriate question for this afternoon. Today, just before lunchtime, we had in the Gasper area, we had about 2 hours of rain, and unfortunately, residents were inconvenienced. Residents would have experienced flooding in their area. River courses would have overflown. I visited a number of homes within the area. I saw the ODPM vehicle. I saw the ODPM personnel outside attending to residents. Within the Gasper area, within the remit of the local government officials, the regional corporations, I would be attending during the dry season. During that period of time, I believe that scheduling and monitoring of our river courses would act as a deterrent, would act as a way of alleviating our flooding issues, together with the removal of bulk waste during the dry period. This should be done in a scheduled, timely fashion, whereby it would discourage littering in our water courses, the scheduled removal of bulk material so that residents can put the material outside and it can be collected in a manner that would prevent flooding in our area.
Okay, thank you. The next question will come from Gemma. I'm Gemma. What I would like to ask you, our new counselor, is what can, as an elderly, what would we expect, or what could we look forward so that you will be able to do for us?
Okay, Ms. Gemma, you could be a little more specific in terms of the nature of what I can do for residents? The elderly. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm so sorry. Well, as counselor, as suggested by this resident, I'm so happy to hear that too. Yes, as counselor, as a member of the regional corporation, I hold, as we all do, we hold our elderly dear to our heart. Our elderly have nurtured us into the persons we are. Our elderly have helped to build our community, and as such, I believe we are responsible, we are duty-bound to take care of our elderly. I think I am saying that I would maintain our facilities within our community, our facilities in terms of our recreational facilities, our sporting facilities, our pathways in our recreational facilities, whereby our elderly can come out on afternoons, on evenings, so that they can have their recreational time, they can have their exercise time, they can have a time where they can communicate with each other, enjoy the environment, so that preparation of our environment in line with our elderly, so that they can have positive social reactions with each other. I look at our facilities. Sometimes I go to a number of our facilities for sporting reasons, cultural reasons, and I would say some of the facilities are not well equipped in terms of ramps, in terms of, and I will also add our differently abled persons in our community. So I am saying that our facilities must be maintained. Our infrastructure must be maintained and developed in a manner that will facilitate proper use by our elderlies in the community of Gasparilla Bonaventia.
One of the things I just wanted to add to what Jason is saying, the other thing that the reform is going to bring is where, people who have issues with the social welfare department, where they don't get a pension check on time, or where they have issues with grants and stuff like that, those things are going to be your councillor's responsibility is going to fall under his remit, where with the reform, he is now will be able to liaise with the social welfare department. His office is going to be linked to the social welfare department, where if you're having issues with your pension, or you may have somebody who has to get a grant, Jason is now going to be the liaison and the person who is going to be able to give you answers and get your check for you and even drop it off for you. But those are some of the things that the reform is bringing. All right, so I just wanted to add that in so that you could be aware of what the reform entails. And I know that most of the elderly, when they heard that aspect of the reform, they were happy because sometimes you have to line up. Remember when you have to line up by the bank and you have to wait long to get your check change and stuff like that? Sometimes you have issues even with the spelling of your name and all this. Those are the things that your councillor now will be able to address with the reform. All right? Any other question? You have a question?
Good night, Mr. Ramkisoon. My name is Suzanne, and I have a question for you. With the escalating crime situation in our country, can you tell us, as the representative for our area, how can you assist us in this capacity?
Pleasant night, Susan. That's a very interesting question. We as residents, we as nationals, we as the community of Trinidad and Tobago are concerned about security within our country, and rightfully so. At the local government level, however, the remit of the local government office within the regional corporation, the cutting of overgrown areas, the cleaning of abandoned houses, abandoned structures, the removal of derelict vehicles. I think that the proper lighting of our roadways that will allow our residents to safely use our roadways, that will allow our residents to access all facilities in a safe manner. I believe that taking care of our environment will add to the security of our citizens within the Gasparilla Bonaventia, within the local government remit. However, security is a national issue. Local government, our regional corporation will work hand in hand with our central government in terms of dealing with our security issues. You're welcome.
Hi, good night, Mr. Ramkisoon. I'm Winisha. Nice to meet you tonight. So I have a question on youth development. As you know, that is crucial. And I'd like to know how you plan to aid and uplift our community youth.
Pleasant night. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. I myself have 4 kids who have all been born, have grown up in our community. I know we will all have our children's interests at heart. Young people have always been of an interest to me. Our facilities in Gasparilla, our existing facilities in Gasparilla, again, scheduled, scheduled maintenance of our facilities will allow usage of the facilities, our recreational facilities, our sporting facilities. Scheduled maintenance of these facilities together with proper planning of events, cultural events, sporting events can be geared towards taking care of our youths in a manner that will give our youth a structured environment that they can flourish in. By maintaining our sporting and recreational facilities, we as residents, we as the adults will be able to take care of our children, guide our youth in our area in a manner that will allow them to flourish into young, positive, contributing adults to our community. Young people have always been a passion for me. I love sports. I've grown up in sports. I love my culture. I am always present at my cultural activities. I believe it is a way of guiding and taking care of the youth within our community.
All right, I think we have another question here by a young lady.
Good night, Mr. Rankasoon.
Pleasant night.
Pleasant night. My name is Jacqueline. I would like to know in what way you can help in the road problem with the holes and whatnot, etc.
So you want to know how he going to, if the roads, maintenance of the roads, the roadway. Okay.
Yes, road issues. Road issues are, it's an economic impact on residents. Road issues, vehicle maintenance, regular vehicle maintenance due to, poor road conditions is an issue. Road conditions also affect efficiency of business on a day-to-day basis. Hence, regular patching, regular maintenance of the roads that are within the remit of the local government bodies will be attended to on a scheduled basis, on a regular basis. Our road systems encourage development within our country, and road maintenance should be taken very seriously. So that a scheduled maintenance, a scheduled program in terms of our patching, in terms of our maintenance of our road will be done by a councillor in terms of our local government regional corporation.
All right, so Jason, you fielded questions from your purchasers and you've heard their concerns and some of the things that they would like to know how you're going to be able to impact their lives personally, because most of those questions are personal questions.
Yes.
Especially the question concerning the elderly. The lady who spoke that question, she is an elder in the community, and I know that she's going to pass on the information to all the other persons, relevant authorities, or relevant friends that she have. All right? And the young lady would have asked the question about the youth, and also, so all the questions were relevant.
Yes,
to your situation, to the community. I want to find out from you. So let's say we had a situation today where there's poor drainage. The reason why you would have had flooding today is because of poor drainage. And one of the things you have always said to me is that you want to be the voice to lobby. You see yourself as a voice to lobby on behalf of the burgesses of Gasparilla Bonaventure. You have seen firsthand today what 2 hours of rain could cut off people who have to reach their Lumsden, who have to go Johnson Street. The water would have cut them off, where they would have had to take a longer route to reach home.
Yes.
I'm saying all of that to ask you, how are you going to lobby for better drainage in the Gasparilla Bonaventure area?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Google. Firstly, I would like to mention that other than the cleaning of drains and water courses within the district, there are other factors that would cause flooding, such as tide issues and other issues of that nature. In order to lobby, in my particular case, the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation, in an efficient and effective manner, I am asking residents, I'm encouraging residents to vote for Jason Ramkissoon on August the 14th. As a member of the Kuva Tabaki Regional Corporation, I will be able to directly lobby our corporation in order to take care of the environment of the Gaspereau Bonaventure district. I'll be able to lobby the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation on behalf of all residents of our district in taking care, in scheduling, in maintaining our roads and maintaining our drainage system within the district. I believe as a councillor, I have the ability to take care of residents at all levels of the local government, within local government remit.
I hope that you all heard that. All right? And one of the things I want to ask Jason to do also is to be aware of all the contractors from the community who can be able to assist and give you proper engineering solution to the flooding situation. Because you'll be surprised that there might be somebody who living right within this area who's an engineer and may just be a contractor who could tell you, Jason, the water needs to be, you see the water course up there, it blocked because of X, Y, and Z, and they might be able to tell you, yes, give you proper information. So I want to beg you to seek the skill set in the community, right? So that they'll be able to guide you properly on that. And that's where the reform comes again.
Yes.
Where the contractor from the area, yes, will get the job. And, yes, you will hire young people from the area. Yes. And that's where the unemployment relief will start.
Well, Mr. Google, that is a very salient point. That is an excellent point you made. Local government reform will, as advised, as spoken by the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, he would have indicated to us, the community, as to the benefits of local government reform in terms of more efficient and effective local government system, which would encourage one of the major aspects. It would encourage development of the district. It will encourage the pooling together of the contractors within our area. It will encourage the contractors to employ the young persons within our area. It will also encourage it will remove the bureaucracy that exists now. So therefore, our lead time for our projects within our district will be less, so that the residents will benefit from local government reform.
Pleasant good night, sir.
Pleasant good night.
Mr. Ramkissoon, I want to ask a question because I saw your dedication and love what you're doing. What made you really put your hat into the ring to run as a candidate for Bonaventure Gaspereau?
I appreciate that question very much. I've lived my whole life in Gaspereau. I have a very intimate relationship with Gaspereau and members of the public in Gaspereau. I love my community. I love the people in my community, and I believe I can make a contribution to our community in Gaspereau, a positive contribution to our persons in Gaspereau. Local government reform and the local government system, I believe, will allow me the opportunity to make a positive contribution within the community of Gaspereau. Hence the reason why I have decided I believe I can make an excellent local government councillor. I'm offering myself for service to our community. I'm offering myself for service to our community, and I believe I can get the job done under the People's National Movement.
All right, great. So Jason, we're coming to the close. It's so much weeks now, 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks of campaigning. So you think you lose any weight?
Well, I checked the scale when last week. I believe I lost about 5 pounds.
But just if you lose any more weight, you'll be a feather.
Yeah. I think I also lost a couple of shoes. I don't
You
think,
lost some shoes too?
Yeah, sole wear out.
Your wife look like she likes shoes and things, so she might buy some sneakers and other shoes and things for you. But 7 weeks of campaigning.
Yes.
And I don't want you to fool the people in the sense that making them feel that everything was all happy. You had your ups and your downs.
Yes, I did.
Right? You would have met persons, I'm sure, who would have said to you, I ain't voting for you. I ain't voting. Because they see this thing, it's making no sense. And you had to convince them that, hey, this one is going to make sense because it's local government reform. It ain't about the clock and the, nothing about that. It's really about making your life comfortable in your community.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I want you to share with the persons who are sitting here and the viewers who are on the live. Let's say good evening to all the viewers who are joining us. I want you to share with them in a real short capsule, the journey. The journey. It's your first time. You have done this before?
No, this
so
is
it's
my
your first time.
Yes.
So share with them a very short, concise story of this journey of Jason Ramkissoon offering himself, and how has the journey been?
Yes. Offering myself a service to my community. I believe Google, if elected, I could be of service and value to my community. I started off the journey within the PNM Tabakit constituency. This political journey has been amazing. I have learned so much coming off of this journey thus far. It has been so interesting. And I want to touch on a point that you made, speaking about persons who would say, well, they're not voting for me. But yes, there were resistance. There is resistance in a particular way. Persons who are undecided, persons who are unsure. But I am saying that number is in its minority. Our residents in Gasflow are well informed. They are educated. They know what is needed to improve our community. And I am proud to be able to work alongside our residents in Gasflow in working hand in hand, improving our community to the standard that it should be and to the standard that is required so that we can live comfortably in harmony with each other. It has been a wonderful journey. I've learned so much from people. I've learned so much about people. I have found streets in Gasflow Google that, believe it or not, I did not know was so extensive. I have been to streets that when I reach in the street, I was like, hey, but we have streets in the back here, but this amount of development, this amount of houses, I see persons working hard with their families to take care of their families. And I believe that a local government official should work parallel with our community in improving our community together. Gasflow is togetherness. Gasflow is love. And I would like to promote that.
Well said, man. Well said. I hear people saying amen, all kind of things in the corner here like you're preaching, innit? I want to say amen, and you want to say something, sir? I think you should say something. All that amen you say there, you sound like you're convinced. You're voting on August 14th?
Yes.
You're voting for?
Jason Ramkissoon.
Thank you.
Which area are you from?
I from Bedu Street.
Bedu Street.
Bedu Street.
That's what we're talking about. All right. And you from Bedu Street too, Mom? Yes. All right. That's what we're talking about. So, Jason, what are the activities winding up to this campaign? And see your wife get up, so you know what that means. She wanted to keep it short, to the point.
Okay, so we are speaking about activities that we would have.
We'll culminate. We'll bring the campaign, your campaign, to an end.
Okay, well, before I mention the activities that would bring the campaign to an end, I just want to mention that we had a wonderful time Sunday weekend last at the Youth Fest, where we had three invited gospel artists. These are the type of activities that are appreciated within the Gasparilla area. We had our young people coming out to play games. We had vendors on site who would have come out to ply their trade. We had vendors who would have indicated to us that the event was quite successful. These are the type of activities that we would have had in the recent past, and these are the type of activities we would like to promote in the future. We also have our PNM rally, our PNM motorcade on August the 12th, Saturday, August the 12th at 1 p.m. We have our motorcade on Friday, August the 11th as well. We have the Gasparilla Bonaventure motorcade on August the 11th.
So your motorcade is on Friday?
On Friday.
Your motorcade?
Yes, it's on Friday. Gasparilla Bonaventure.
Am I invited to that motorcade?
Everyone is invited.
Okay.
Everyone. It matters not what your political, or everyone is invited. The time is 4 p.m.
Right.
For the motorcade.
Where are you gathering?
We are gathering at the constituency office corner of Allen Street, Main Road, Gasparilla.
Right.
Where we will have a time. We will have a time celebrating anticipated victory on August the 14th, an anticipated victory for Gasparilla Bonaventure, anticipated victory for the People's National Movement.
Beautiful.
I believe if elected, I am encouraging everyone to vote Jason Ramke soon, vote Jason for councillor. I believe if elected, I could be of service and value to our community. I am ready to work for our residents.
Something you said earlier on before we close, that you talked about the event you had on Sunday, where the vendors would have spoken about the sales and stuff like that.
Yes.
And when the last time we spoke, you said to me, because I think we had a question like that from somebody who was viewing the live, what are you going to do for people who plying the market trade? And you were saying that you were going to put tents around the car park in Lumsden, put tents around and allow people to do their market trade right there. So if you live in Gasparilla, well, if you live in the area, you would be able to come right inside Lumsden and buy your little dashing bush, your little meadows, your little planting and thing on a Sunday morning, and they give the young entrepreneurs a sale.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Because the real plan is that later on, Jason is planning to, Jason's supposed to be talking this, but I talking like if I am his PRO. But he did say that he plans to find a way or find a space for persons who want to apply the trade.
Yes, Google, that is quite correct. There are a number of options, there are a number of ideas that the team and I are looking at. For example, consulting with stakeholders in terms of outfitting a facility that is capable of hosting such a marketplace where we can support our vendors and more than just give a sale. We are talking about sustainability. We are talking about the future. We are talking about the long-term impact on what a facility like this could have on our community. We are also looking, I am also looking at our recreational grounds, whereby we can use the car parks, we can contribute economically to fees that will be contributed for payments for these recreational facilities, where members of our residents can use these facilities for economic activities, for example, like the retail business, the market business. So I'm still, seeking advice from our stakeholders, but these are some of the plans that we are looking at. I also believe in sport as a viable economic option within our communities. As growing up, I would have seen many tournaments. I would have played in many cricket and football tournaments. I believe that is a system whereby we could assist each other. We can assist the youths. We can give recreation to our elderly who would come out at our cricket and football tournaments, at our basketball tournaments. There is also the basketball court in Lumsden that needs some work. There's the basketball court in Springland that needs some work. I say our young ladies, our netballers, we need to outfit a facility within our area, within our district to assist our netballers.
Very good. So we're looking to close off. So just see your closing remarks as we look to bring the curtains down on this really nice, cozy, up close and personal question and answering segment with Jason Ramkisoon.
My closing remark would be a very simple one. It will be a justifiable one. It will be a practical one. On August the 14th, there is no other choice. Vote the People's National Movement. On August the 14th, vote for Jason Ramkisoon. On August the 14th, vote Jason for councillor. I am ready to work for you. Thank you.
We don't want no bad vibes in the land. Because I ready me up for the task.
And welcome to In-Depth. This is an In-Depth with a difference. We are speaking about local government reform. We're doing so with Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Faris Al-Rawi. He's here to answer questions from the public, along with some of mine. And we want to welcome you, Minister. Thank you so much for being here. We know that time is at a premium at this point in time, but we took the opportunity to make some calls for members of the public to ask comments about local government reform. And we had Jason A. Mahaber. He was asking to kindly explain in detail how a reform benefits the citizens. I guess we'll ask for the three main points. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on this program. And yes, time is at a premium, so I'm looking forward to getting to the punchlines. How can reform benefit the individual? Reform is exactly about the individual. It is about, number one, putting people in a place where they can see the relief that they request, have that performed immediately, and give them participation in it. It means basically jobs, faster service delivery, and the ability to track so that there is an accountable system that things can happen. Why jobs? With the system in the old version, you basically have 19 steps before anything can happen, literally, if you process map it. From the request of the individual, the citizen, to repair a pothole, from the citizen's request to cut an overgrown lot, to get planning permission, there are 19 steps if the job is over $200,000, which is in most cases, most jobs. We are now moving to a step where it's 7 steps alone. And in that 7 steps, we're seeing take more money, which is almost $65 million in the case of San Fernando, for example, just by property tax at $1 a day and $2 a day. Take the money that you usually give to Ministry of Education to do schools, etc., give it to the corporation. In other words, then, move it from an $11 million PSIP budget to a $100 million budget, and take the power to hire right at the corporation, move down from 19 steps for approval, take 7 steps, and therefore have an economic explosion with people who live there.
And there was a question from Premchand Rambarose. He's saying that it took the PNM 8 years, and then it seems as though there's a narrative towards pushing reform now. So what was the process, or can you give us some steps along that timeline?
Well, it took the country 33 years to get to where we are. It didn't take the PNM 8 years. 8 years involved, number one, having consultations at every single entity. Why? You don't make law for yourself. You have to have the feedback from the ground. After that, legislation was drafted. Very significant forms were put into it, which required 2/3 majority, 3/4 majority, 3/5 majority support in the parliament. We had to wrestle with an opposition that refused to support local government reform. They did not support it. And therefore, we had to back away from some of the deeper reforms because we just couldn't pass the reform. So that was after consultation, Joint Select Committee, hitting the UNC wall because they will not support reform, coming to the parliament and passing what we could, and then turning on the law. And it is quite simply if you want better chance at security, if you want a significant number of jobs, because most people, those are the two main issues at local government, then local government reform does it by shortening the time frame and allowing you through an app to track your reports. My Pothole, on the app, you will see who is managing it, where it is done, what time frame it's going to take, and how you're going to pay for it.
And thank you for that. We had VIN PM 60 asking the question, does local government elections affect the local government reform bill from being passed? And I guess this possibly ties into what you're talking about, simple majority, 3/5 majority. And this question was also echoed by Bobby Biharilal. So if the government loses the local government election, can they not still introduce the local reform? And as the government is in power, this from Rajesh Ramdayal, if the local government election is lost, will the government still be able to bring local government reform?
So those are three slightly different but similarly related issues, questions. The law has been passed. So it's already a law. It has been partially put on by proclamation. What we said was, let's start by giving the councillors 4 years so we can build out the systems. The Privy Council said, listen, your existing councillors, that does not apply to, so have an election, and we did. So the law has been passed. Turning on the law now certainly does depend upon some of the election aspects, because if you have UNC corporations that refuse to support the implementation of the law, then you're going to have some issues in implementation. That's what you call political sabotage. And political sabotage is a real consequence. So we've come to the country after 33 years of complaints since the 1990 legislation was passed. We've looked at the Tobago model. We've looked at how clean and better a chance at life Tobago represents. We've brought it to Trinidad. We've said, remove 19 steps of running to Mars and Venus to get approvals. Take 7 steps, hire more people, take significantly more money. And yes, turning on the law does depend upon the acceptance of the law by those who will now occupy office, which is why the government is promoting on its political side its advocacy for the ruling People's National Movement.
And looking at that 33 years, someone was saying that, well, actually, Victor Legaton talks about local government reform started with NAR and looking at the creation of the Ministry of Decentralization. So he's asking whether or not that emphasis is tied into the impending property tax. How do they coexist
So
with each
local
other?
government reform actually started with the Exchequer and Audit Act, which took away the powers from the county councils, brought it to central government because they said, look, local government can run better if you centralize it. So they wanted to integrate everything. That experiment has not worked. We now say, give the power to the corporations, but we're doing it with the public procurement law. As ugly as it may be in some ways, as difficult as it is to operationalize, because the public procurement law allows the corporation itself to procure, not the Minister of Finance, who may be your political opponent. No, we're saying you take the power to spend. And therefore, the reform has a chance at success. So this is a very different approach. It wasn't an NAR approach, etc. It was way back in the Synergy committees, etc., that we really had this position. What has been lacking is the political will to do it. So we drafted the law. In fact, I am the drafter of the law, and my job is to operationalize the law that I myself drafted.
I like the fact that you talk about issues such as procurement regulations, because this ties into a question that Larry Tobias had. We have about 2 minutes more before we take that break, but he's asking, Honorable Minister, what safeguards are there in place to make sure that the authority and power given to politicians or officials are not abused? And especially he cited reference of looking at the THA and possibly not everything you may want it to be, seeing that the legislation, it mirrors heavily what is happening at the THA Act.
So it doesn't mirror that much of the THA. The difference is that we have a public procurement law. We have the audit and other committees chaired by the minority. In other words, then, who does not control the corporation chairs the audit committee so that the scrutiny happens. Remember, under the public procurement law, you now have challenge proceedings. You, in fact, have 4 ways to challenge any procurement. And that is a massively different equation this time. So we're saying take more money, but take tremendously more pressure in how you spend it, and you're accountable for it.
and we are also accountable for time. We take a short break. We are coming back. We are speaking with, we'll also remind you that you can visit rdlg.gov.tt for more information to help inform your decisions. But stay with us. We return with the minister when we return. Welcome back to this conversation. We are speaking with the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Faris Al-Rawi, and we are speaking local government reform. Very happy that we're able to speak specifically to these things, but give us an idea of some of the pieces of legislation that are tied or will impact local government reform first.
So local government reform actually is a universe that attaches onto a lot of other laws. Number one, Valuation of Lands Act, because you got to value property at a rental value and take a very tiny percentage of that for your residential taxes. It works out to $1 a day or $2 a day. So Valuation of Land Act, Property Tax Act, the Planning and Facilitation Act, the Town and Country Planning Act, the Environmental Management Authority Act, the Public Health Ordinance, the Land Settlement Agency, the Housing Development Corporation. They're all associated elements. Why? Because they've got properties inside of local government. The Education Act, the Municipal Police, the Police Service Act, the Supplemental Police Act, the Special Reserve Police Act, and it goes on, which is why the miscellaneous provisions local government reform actually was an amendment to 10 laws, advertising, traffic regulations, etc., because that universe exists inside of local government. So there are significant number of laws. It ties into central government, the Constitution, the appropriation bills, the Exchequer and Audit Act, the Corporation Taxes Act, etc. So perhaps it is why a former Attorney General is actually putting it on. Because if you really want it on in a quick space of time, you have to know where to go, and you don't have the luxury of time. The Prime Minister is insistent that local government must be delivered to the citizens of this country. And what we're saying, very simple, forget the highfalutin aspects of it. More jobs, faster spending, crime and security to be dealt with. Let me give you an example, laws. We amended the Evidence Act to allow for CCTV camera to be primary evidence, so you don't have to tap somebody on the shoulder, hey, it was you, I see thief. The Evidence Act is amended. It ties into the Police Service Act. It goes into the Standing Orders and Regulations. It goes into the Criminal Procedure Act. Municipal police and local authorities now have the ability, City of San Fernando, invite people to have cameras everywhere from their homes, use it as open source police reporting, tie it into your municipal police. We've developed an app to know where the municipal police are, 2 minutes away, 5 minutes away, 7 minutes away, and that way you can get convictions without exposing yourself. So there's a huge connection to a number of laws. What we have to do is to make it work faster and to have transparency, so you remove people feeling that anguish. I can't get my street light fixed. I've reported this leak for 2 years and nothing has happened. The garbage is piling up for 2 weeks at a time until we cry and beg. The grass is 12 feet tall because the neighbor won't cut their grass and there's a victim circumstance. All of that is in the reform law, making it faster with local employment, taking money from the society and getting it done.
So those consequential amendments to changes have already,
Yes.
they already exist.
Yes, they are all in the package. There'll be some further amendments to come inside of the Municipal Corporations Act, for instance, with municipal policing, because we don't want to have our municipal police running on people for a market offense, summons, warrant, court. The same way we fixed motor vehicle and road traffic to put demerit points or fixed penalty tickets, the same way we dealt with cannabis in its decriminalization. You have to make sure police are doing proper police work. Nuisance work can be dealt with by way of fixed penalty notices. You're breaching any market violations, same way we dealt with a breach of not wearing masks. You just treat with it that way. The interesting fact is that I'm the architect of all of those laws that declog that system. So now we got to bring it into local government because these things matter. You want your 1,500 municipal police doing community policing, having the power of arrest, dealing with people who are in jeopardy. If you look at the statistics on murder and you look at familial murder, i.e. provocation or circumstances that husband and wife, domestic disputes, neighbors or family related, there are almost 600 people that you can identify over 2 years that are in that bracket. Early intervention by municipal policing means you cut that down in the numbers and you get to know your communities at work. So we're about community policing, but using the laws, the Evidence Act, etc., etc.
And break that down for me in the sense that what obtains now with regard to, you spoke to municipal police and special reserve police.
So the municipal
and how
police,
will that change?
under Section 48 of the Municipal Corporations Act, municipal police are created. They have all the powers of the police. So they are the police. They have statutory powers of the police and common law powers of the police. There are aids to enforcement. There are the supplemental police and there are the SRPs, the Special Reserve Police, that also operate. So policing in Trinidad and Tobago is TTPS, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, supplemental police, Special Reserve Police, municipal police, and under the supplemental police, you have estate police, etc. And then there's the private security industry. So remember, we have legislation to now use private security industry in a different way. So what the Prime Minister is driving us to do now is to pull the pieces together. I had 7 years of drafting all those laws, so I know them like the back of my hand. The government knows them like the back of the hand because it's one team, Minister of National Security, etc. What has to happen right now, having purchased and implemented all of these things, time to pull the strings together, bring it forward and let it take form. A puppet lying without a hand that moves it or orchestrates it is merely a bunch of strings and pieces. Now we have to make sure that we animate the reform, and that's what this is about.
And it makes me want to ask sometimes, what is the, to your experience, the biggest myth, misnomer that people have when it comes to implementing local government reform or local government reform itself?
The expectation that a different person will do it differently without changing the system. Every councillor that offers himself or herself forward, yes, I'm on the ground, I want to serve people, I'm from the people, I have a great idea, I see some land over there that we could develop. Well, what you building on the land if you don't have the money? How are you going to fix the roads for the very people that ask you and you're in consultation with if you don't change the system of it taking 19 steps and a year to approve versus 7 steps and weeks to approve? We come on this occasion to say, listen, we're changing the system. We're not saying we're going to change it, that we passed the law already. We want to operationalize it. We, the PNM, want to win the election. Why? Because we want to put it on without political objection. I fear, and I'm taking off the minister's hat and I'm putting on the political representative hat now. I fear that a vote for the UNC, the opposition, means a delay in the delivery of relief that people need simply because there's a general election ahead. So we'll have 2 years of suffering, of blocking, of obstructing, when people want their services now. You can judge after, but let the system go to work. When I was passing the criminal division, and I said, let's do courts online, let's have public defenders, let's decriminalize marijuana, let's have child marriage abolished. They stood against all of those things. Today, you go to court on camera. The prisoner does not move from the jail. But there was odium and objection. They went to court on everything. They challenged the criminal proceedings rules. So my experience with the current opposition is that they just block. Because if they are not in charge, everything must fall down in this country. The young people, if you are engaged in your communities as we are, I'm there till midnight every night inside of communities, etc. They just simply say, listen, I want a chance at looking after my family by having a job. I want my services done. You get repeated requests in San Fernando, listen, I want a job in the hospital, or I want a job in what they still call the borough, meaning the city corporation. There are only so many jobs, but if you increase the capacity by having more money, giving the power to procure right there by the corporation will no longer be hiring people just to clean the road or build a box drain. They now need people to look after the schools, to look after community centers, to do play parks, to do sports, to do local economic development. So it's a very different field that we have created. And we're not giving an expectation of, well, I think so. We're telling you how it's going to be funded, how it's going to be monitored, how it's going to be audited, and how much faster it's going to be.
But looking at that difference between personality, someone says, well, I have this idea and I want to implement it, versus process, changing that system. What kind of timeline are we looking at in terms of saying, okay, well, these things already exist, but it is time to implement? What kind of timeline are you looking
Well, I
at?
can tell you we've developed nearly 99% of these already in the ministry. The apps are built out. The process maps have changed. The process for full implementation is sequentially related to August 14th. You have to install a council. The council then has to, depending upon how it works and what objections the UNC is going to bring, we then need to move to full-time councillors. We then need to establish the standing committees. This year, we're expected to collect property tax, and it's the corporation that collects the tax and not the Minister of Finance. So the corporation is expected to collect its taxes. We've built out the system for that. We've given the power for the corporations to hire their own people. You don't need to wait on the service commissions. You can do it yourself. So the rapidity of that reform is going to be associated by the common sense of deciding, well, do you let the government continue its work and let it happen? And of course, that's a democratic thought that's going to be polled literally on August the 14th.
And the last question that we had from Kalinda G, before we ask for closing statements from you, what local government benefits apply to gated communities?
Well, gated communities now have the chance to be vested in the corporations. So if a gated community needs its garbage picked up, its drains looked after, the government can't spend taxpaying dollars on private property necessarily. So a gated community, eventually the roads inside of gated communities have to be vested in the corporations. We've done the vesting orders. I'll take them to Parliament very shortly. The second type of community that we are promoting is going to be virtually gated communities, where cameras can do the gating for you. Remember, we have a system of RF tag IDs still to come on number plates. We've digitized the Ministry of Works. All number plates and licensing positions are now all digital, so that there's now a tie-in there with the company's registry, with the TTPS, with the Ministry of Works and Transport. The judiciary has access to that. The ticketing systems, we built a completely different ecosystem. You're going to see the effects of it over the next couple of months. So virtually gated communities have a chance at success, because many people will tell you that neighborhood chats are really a wonderful thing. I see X, be on the alert to Y, call the police come. When it's time to prosecute, the police need a witness. And people are saying, well, sorry, I don't want to be that guy, because there's fear and intimidation being promoted. And understandably, people have concerns. We're taking that away by the sections in the Evidence Act. So that all comes into local government as well, because the municipal police have to monitor, investigate, charge, and prosecute. You can't convict or acquit without a trial, which must have evidence.
And we're very grateful that we were able to get these answers from you. We're grateful that you were able to send in your questions, and without really wearing the political hat too much, but just looking specifically at what local government reform entails. Also reminding you, you can visit rdlg.gov.tt. This has been In Depth with me, DK Rossa. Thank you very much, Minister Faris Al-Rawi. And we want to thank you on behalf of the entire TTT News team for tuning in.
Process has been going on in local government for 40 years. You have a problem, a local problem, a pothole, a drain to be cleaned, or overgrown public areas. You take it to your councillor. Your councillor takes it to the council, agrees to a solution. Council makes a request to the CEO to examine your solution. The CEO sends it to the corporation staff. Both the staff and the CEO do not report to the council. The solution to your problem is then examined. Engineer reports, surveys, estimate of costs. This takes 3 to 6 months or longer. When your solution is quantified, it is returned for the council's approval. The solution is then sent back to the CEO, where it begins its journey to the permanent secretary in Port of Spain for processing and takes months to be acknowledged. The permanent secretary then sends it to the ministry's projects unit for review and may even query aspects of your solution. If they approve, it is sent to the finance and accounts unit to determine if there's enough available funds to pay for your solution. If funds are available, it is sent back to the projects unit with a confirmation and returned to the PS. It now goes to the Ministry of Finance to again be checked and await approval for a release of funds. When approved there, it then goes back to the PS in the ministry and every single desk it previously touched on its way back to your council. This is the journey of just one solution in the current system of local government.
Now, as we head towards the local government elections next Monday on August 14th, we're going to be discussing local government reform, which, according to the government, is all about getting better management and letting burgesses have greater management in their own affairs. And so joining us this morning to talk more about it, we have a minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, with responsibility for communications, Simon de Norberger, and Member of Parliament for Tunapuna and Deputy Speaker, Mr. Esmond Ford. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Pleasure to be here.
Especially just a few days away from local government elections on Monday.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I know that you're still preparing. Now, what we saw was that lengthy process that is actually happening now in terms of how you can get something done, whether it be for your borough, your corporation, that sort of thing. And given your backgrounds, of course, former vice chairman, of course, chairman, tell us some of the challenges, add on to what we've seen there, some of the challenges to get something done as simple as fixing a road in the borough corporation. I'm going to start with you, First Minister.
Thanks, Kimberly. You know, of course, you would have introduced us as members of parliament, but more importantly, we are both products of the local government system. And even though vice chairman and chairman, we were both councillors and elected councillors, and that's important. I was saying to Esmond as we were watching the short clip that looking at it took me back to the frustration of being a councillor. You are correct. There is reform is going to change a lot of how representatives, elected representatives, are able to actually represent those people that they are tasked with that responsibility for. Right. And while yes, there are still going to be capital projects, so capital projects being paving of roads, being larger local government issues. The truth is that a lot of the frustration that is felt by the average citizen is not in those big capital projects, but it's in these small niggling issues. It's these small issues that while you know that these things are happening, but your curb is broken, your drain is broken, there's a pothole in front of your house.
Garbage collection.
It's garbage collection every single day. And you have touched it there. Garbage collection is a major issue because very often you have garbage or the abundance of it very often defining communities. So you, as a child going to school, it's the last thing you see after you leave your house or the first thing you see when you come home. And all of these things are going to be directly impacted by local government reform, and we could get into it, but also I know everyone is going to have.
Well, again, morning to Trinidad and Tobago and my constituents in Tunapuna. Local government is basically local. It's about the service within your community. The road you drive when you're leaving home to go to work, whether there's a pothole, whether the garbage is being collected. So the important thing is really for the community, right? And local government is really about ensuring that the work gets done and the work gets done timely. We have been hearing about reform many years now, since in the days of Minister Hazelman back then, and then we went on to different ministers. But under Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, it's going to happen. Local government reform will take place to ensure that all the bureaucracy will be cleared up.
Well, and before, then let's get into the process. So we've seen the video in terms of from this desk to that desk, it goes to the PS, it comes back, approval, that sort of thing. And as you can see, the timeline getting larger and the issue is still there. And so with local government reform, how is the process going to be shorter? Is it that the chairman of the borough will now be in charge of getting the funds to pave the road? I mean, how is that going to work?
Right. Well, there's going to be an executive council, right? Outside of the whole council of the regional corporation or the municipality, you're going to set up a council with responsibility with different portfolios for whatever aspect, infrastructure, drainage, recreation, sanitation, as the case may be. And they now will be liaising directly now with the CEO, minimizing that whole red tape of going to ensure that it has to be budgetary allocations and all those directives. So we'll be minimizing that issue and taking it directly to the situation, which will work out to be, I say, within a month, 3 weeks, as against a couple months that usually takes place now. So what needs to happen is that while the pothole needs to be repaired, and with the heavy rainfall these days, by the time the funding is allocated, the pothole size has changed.
Correct.
And residents are now getting annoyed. They're saying, okay, the councillor is not performing. But the idea about it is that The request has been made for the services, but because of the bureaucracy, it happens at a later stage.
At a later stage.
At a later stage.
Minister.
So yeah, Esmond is correct. We both know the challenge of not being able to react as quickly as is required. In cutting through this red tape, what allows is for the corporation to have an allocation that is given to them. And the perfect working model for that is the THA, right? So there's a direct relationship between the corporation and the Ministry of Finance, right?
Yeah.
That money comes to the corporation, and the corporation has the autonomy, has the authority to spend it the way it needs to be spent. Yeah? And so something happens, there is no longer, and when I say something happens, there is I suppose a pothole is the easiest. Is the easiest. Is the identifiable. Is the identifier, right? And so there is no longer requirement, one, in order to get that done, to wait for releases because your finance department has to write, and they're going to do that at the end of the month, or they get the releases and the persons who are tasked with the responsibility of executing, both in terms of purchasing and in terms of doing, because your counselor is not the person who is doing the work. The counselor advocates on behalf of the electorate and correct representation, right? So what happens is the person who is tasked with the purchasing, and I can tell you from personal experience, you need to build up a wall or a curb somewhere. And when releases are sent and purchases are made, you realize that you've purchased cement, you've purchased gravel, but you haven't purchased blocks and you haven't purchased sand. What local government reform does is it gives authority to that executive council in order to be held accountable by the electorate, but also to hold accountable those who are tasked with execution.
But Minister, allow me to interject here, because we're talking about that similarity between local government and also with THA, right? So when you think about that, there's an autonomy that executive council will have. And I have to ask the question, who has oversight over that council? Because some people have raised the fact that this council may have too much authority, especially as it relates to public funds.
Well, there's a difference between responsibility for what you are tasked with and overstepping what your responsibility is. And I think that what we are looking at here is ensuring that there is autonomy and there is the ability to execute the responsibility when it comes to local government that you have been tasked with. In terms of overarching responsibility, of course, there's still going to be a level of oversight by Minister of Finance. There's still going to be a level of oversight by the minister.
Added to that, Minister, is that you have to remember that executive council still have to report to the actual council of the municipality.
Right.
Right. So there will be that accountability to ensure. And then remember, you're dealing directly with the Ministry of Finance. So whether it is that the PS or there'll be an accounting officer to ensure that those things are taken care of on a daily basis.
But I also think, Emily, that to extend on what Esmond is saying, that there is also a requirement in this for statutory meetings, which is where the public attends, to be held and to be held in such a way that the public is able to add oversight and to hold the elected representatives to account, whether it is that something has not gotten done, to be told why it has not gotten done. If it's not being done fast enough, to be told that as well. And then there is also, in terms of oversight, the embedded oversight that comes with the chairmanship of those committees. So I think it would have been Minister Arawi in a public forum would have discussed very much like what happens at the parliament level, where you have certain key committees that must be chaired in councils where you have a majority and a minority, must be chaired by the minority. So embedded in reform is that oversight, is that ability to hold accountable from within and from outside.
So let's take a broader look at it as well, because we're thinking about the pothole, the garbage collection. But how else are the Burgesses going to benefit from local government reform? Are we going to see more jobs? Are we going to see things like that? How else are they going to benefit?
Okay. Now, keep in mind, with local government reform, the four important pillars are basically the manpower, which will take care of the human resources, the machinery, which is the equipment, right? The money, which is most important, and the materials. Those four things put together will ensure that reform will be profitable, will be beneficial for the community. Keeping in mind that each one interrelate and each one work hand in hand with each other. So therefore, for reform, it's on paper. The money is there, the materials is there, the equipment is there. The human resource aspect is where we need to get that mindset change. Because if the workers continue in the same mold, in the same frame of mind, you know, in Tunapuna Piak Regional Corporation, you come to work for 7, it is said you come to work for 7 and by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you're gone. You know what I mean? We need to ensure that those hours are put in place to ensure garbage collection is in Tunapuna Piaku is on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. Outside of those days, the system will fall, right? The system will fall. So you need to ensure that accountability is taken care of. Workers need to be on duty. The money needs to be there, the funding on a timely basis. The materials purchased also on a timely basis, but the manpower must execute.
And
Without
those things, where's the money coming from?
Well, here's the thing. And even before we get to that, coming back to jobs, right? So you have two things here. One, you have a council and a corporation that for the first time actually has the authority to hire. And garbage collection is a perfect example of that. So you have the ability to go, when you combine local government reform with the Public Procurement Act, those two combined, you have the ability to go and hire and enter into contracts as the corporation for the very first time. And a major part of that, one of the weights in terms of hiring and award, is local content. So what you're going to see, two things. You're going to see a reformed local government that, one, benefits small and medium community-based contractors. That's the first part. Local economic development is one of those committees that forms a major pillar of local government. But separate to that, in terms of what does that mean to the man and woman on the street, and in particular young people, who's also looking for a job, whether that job be permanent, whether that job be contractual, or whether that job be short-term. When you have a corporation that has this level of autonomy, and moving on to what I suspect is your next point, where the money is coming from,
funding, yes,
that is funded both from central government and from taxes raised within the corporation, collected by the corporation and spent in the corporation. You have the ability for a council who can be reactive and proactive to say, we have this issue, and this issue can be whatever is specific to that region, and that touches on the need for a region to not only know what their problems are, but know the solutions are as well. To have councillors who understand that, and those solutions are very often local in nature. But to have the ability to say, all right, we have these parks, and these parks, we have a real issue here of maintenance of the parks, right? Specific to this. And that issue may be beyond what our maintenance teams may be capable of doing. And as a result of that, we want to have a team of 5 people assigned to these 3 parks, and their job is to ensure that this area is maintained exclusively for that. We may have any issue in a community where the solution, whether that be a short-term solution or a long-term solution, exists in the community, and the ability to solve it requires bringing persons from that community together to say, we have this solution and we want to execute it. That never truly existed in a practical sense at local government level.
Minister, permit me to ask as well. So we are seeing the benefits that local government reform is supposed to have for the community, for the burgesses, that sort of thing. How soon can we actually see it in practice?
Well, first of all, it has to form part of what we would like to think is a final referendum and a final approval by the population to say we are for reform. And once that is done, right now, the Attorney General, the Cabinet, are all working towards ensuring that the legislation is in place to be able to effect these changes as we go along. So you're going to see over the course of the coming months and years a rollout. And when I say years, I want to make sure the population doesn't see this as another pie in the sky. However, there is a requirement very often to make certain changes to amendments to different pieces of legislation. But property tax is going to be a component of that. Reform is going to benefit from the changes in the Public Procurement Act, which gives that power to the corporation. So you are going to see immediate implementation of major components, and as this goes on, we are going to see the other supporting services being rolled out at local government. But the most important thing is that right now you are going to have corporations who have that level of autonomy, who have that level of authority that matches their responsibility to be able to effectively represent.
If I may add, and one of the things that again can be readily rolled out with regards to the community contractual arrangements, each council, like for instance in the Tunapuna-Piako region, similar to most of the other regions, we have 16 electoral districts. Each one of those districts now will have a particular councillor. Contractors that are based in those areas will be given first preference. So let's say, for instance, in Orzenville, Tunapuna, there are contractors there. So the development programs that are estimated and programmed by these councils now will be given to contractors in the area, and they will be obligated to hire individuals from within the electoral districts. Those are things can, again, immediately after the elections, those programs can start. Contractors roll out, community contractors, community workers, and each one working to the benefit of their particular community. Those are things that are important.
We have about 1 more minute left, just for the public to understand exactly what local government reform is. Remind us of the process. I have a pothole in my area. I come to the councillor. What's next?
You have a pothole in your area. You have an issue in your area of any sort that is to be dealt with by a reformed local government, which has expanded from what it is now. You come to the councillor. You say we have this issue. The councillor goes to council, says we have this issue. It needs to be addressed. We need to have a solution for it. A decision is made at council. This is the solution. Council now has the ability to make that decision, implement that decision, and then monitor and execute on that decision and hold the people who are responsible for the execution accountable. That is literally that arc of delivery, as opposed to coming to council. Council goes to Kent House. Kent House has to issue releases. Those releases have to arrive. It has to go into the specific vote that is for that, and then you now have to very often hope that the funding is approved and that it is being implemented, because you now have a body that is accountable to the council, as opposed to, and it is an unfortunate truth, as opposed to having a person who works in the corporation simply say, you cannot hold me accountable because I don't report to you as the council or the councillor.
Right. Well, Minister De Nobrega, MP Ford,
Sure.
thank you so much for joining us this
Pleasure.
morning.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
know it's
Kimberly.
going to be the last few days of election, and so we look forward to see the race as we look forward to August 14th. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure being here, man.
Of
Pleasure
course.
being here.
Thank you.
Always. Thank you.
And that, of course, was the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister Communications, Simon De Nobrega, and the Honourable Member of Parliament for Tunapuna and also Deputy Speaker of the House, Mr. Esmond Ford. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.